On today's episode of Let's Talk FGO, Valentine's is here in English and soon in JP. And also probably some other stuff at the end that we haven't been able to talk about for like 3 weeks because we were talking about Lostbelt 7. Hello, I am one of your hosts, Omega the Miner. With me as always, Lucky the Farmer.
I hope everyone is enjoying Fate Grand Order, aka our one weakness, a giant stone woman. And while we're here at Studio Mega, I'd like to bring you the latest in FGO-related news and memes. We will be talking about current and future events for the JP and EA version of the game, so anyone not wanting spoilers should make sure to say lovey-dovey at least once a day or more.
Sorry, I shook my head slightly at the lovey-dovey. It is just kind of... Ugh. What if they say that, the original dialogue in Japanese, to let me know exactly what sort of...
If I remember correctly, lovey-dovey, I think it's like rabu-rabu, lavu-lavu, lavu-lavu-jan.
Yes, no, yeah, if that's... No wonder. That, admittedly, it's because it's foreign to me, but that sounds like even worse than saying lovey-dovey.
It's like, I'm pretty sure that's it. I can't remember if it's within like an actual L's or with its R's though.
Well, it's
like love-a-love-a-john or rubber-rubber-john. Love-a-love-a. I don't remember. My Japanese ain't great, okay?
The consonants are written the same in Japanese, so it's one of those things where, does it matter? Who knows? Anyway, welcome to our show, Let's Talk FGO. The podcast is here every week. This beautiful podcast is brought to you by viewers like you, but also our patrons. More on them later. But we'll continue to move through all of our many funny ha-has and hee-hees and tee-hees to you. First, that means it's time to check out everybody's favorite kohai, Mash.
Senpai, 起きてください.
Because it's time for Wake the Fuck Up Senpai, we're going to stand for pro tips.
Whoa.
Also, Mash is on her, 4th or 5th Valentine's CE.
4th, I believe.
Yeah, I think the one this year is actually called Day of 4th, or something like that.
I would hope so, because I got 3 different Mash CEs in my second archive, so I'd be very upset if I missed one.
No, I'm pretty sure the one this year is called number 4. Anyway, speaking of Valentines, mentioned before, the Blessed Lock-On Chacos. You know, they're your way to kind of make your own bonus servants and get some extra bond farming. But yes, to clarify from last time, because the wiki was non-specific, there's no damage up on your Blessed Lock-Ons. But they do give you instantly maximum NP gauge, and also do come with a 50% bond up. And, if you're curious, when you're selecting them for both party and formation support setup, they count as bond servants in the filter. So, I think those effects may be mirrored out to the world. I haven't grabbed anybody with a super or a Blessed Lock-On effect yet, but they go in the list anyway. Also, I said, I think in the pregame last time that I was, 90% sure previous year's Valentine CEs did something. We are now 100% sure they do indeed give you 10% extra points. If you have some redundancies or want to cycle some out of the second archive lockup, I actually have some duplicates because I don't. I think if you have them in second archive, the game can still give them to you if you surprise.
Well, I guess
maybe
to
I
be
just
fair, I'm not. Yeah, haven't had to use a surprise, and I don't think I'm going to. Like I said, I pulled all of them out, and I just filter my tab to have not gotten.
Yeah. And
just go from there.
Yeah,
like I said.
Oh, God, how many servants have I rolled since last Valentine's? I don't think it's been that many. I guess I'll find out and check. But I should also probably be able to lock on most of them.
Let's see, I believe, actually, let me see here, because I've done all my ladies. And like I said, the trick I like to do is I'd like to not actually pull them out of the box until it's the 14th, because that's when it says you actually arrive them. So it's a little tee-hee for me. Let me see here. Make sure there's nothing else in my thing. Yeah, so I got I've done 18. I've had 18 new ladies, and I probably have probably less than 10 guys. I didn't get a lot of guys this year.
Yeah, I can probably save. We'll see. I guess there's 3 million points in the ladder, but yeah, I haven't used any surprises yet.
Oh, it's 3 million. Jeez, I'm only at 300K. I'm only a tenth of the way there.
Yeah,
and I was feeling good about myself. Jesus.
No, it's really stretched out. That said, we were talking earlier about, should I wait for, later nodes? Since the nodes do scale up, if you're already at 300K on the first day's nodes, you're probably going to be fine.
Probably. I hope
you've got until the 27th, I think. We'll say in a second here. But yeah, so there's your clarification on how the bonus chacos work, which means it's time for Records to the Throne, our regular achievement topic.
So that's me. And this week, it's not much. I will say, I did throw 30 quartz at the event banner, and I got all the event CEs. That's all I needed. I'm going home. Like I said, Pope Johanna probably would have been nice. I would have welcomed her, but unfortunately, we mentioned this before, they have done her the grave injustice of announcing what's coming up soon, and well, there's nothing I can do about that.
Yeah, no, there's nothing to be said. It's unfortunate. Luckily, she will have a pre-release next year's Valentine's, which may be a better time. And also, obviously, there's going to be that ruler banner in January. And I said this before on the Wanted that I posted, which I did call my own shot. And I'm like, hey, this video's not going to do as good as my previous couple batches of Wanteds. If you do see the video, please, make sure to give it a like, maybe share it with someone. But I would also not be surprised if, because they always do this every Valentine's, she gets another banner this month as well, because they ran like 2 Medusa Saber banners like back to back, so they've shown that the weekly class-based campaign does not necessarily prevent a servant from having a normal rate-up banner where appropriate, right?
Right.
So they'll get an opportunity. You can roll her year's CEs, I would guess.
And for a part 2, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I did protect my Cuckoo and Tenochtitlan's smiles. So Lucky is maintaining his max level servant status. Now Lucky's problem is now getting through all the rank ups, interludes, and free quests. He's just been let him pile up in the corner because he's lazy. Good job, Lucky.
Well, you said you've been chipping away.
I have.
It's good. I need to wrap up the... We've been very busy with a lot of things, but I need to go back and finish my free crest run on LB7. I haven't cleared all of them yet. Did get my costumes. But yeah, no records or evils for me. We're just chilling right now. Might spend some of the points ladder tickets to try and get Johanna or the CEs, but otherwise I'm holding it in. Which means... Hold on, Chad. I have to rub my eyes, which means I cannot read my show notes.
Oh no, he is blind.
All right, the light returns. Means it's time for Did You Finish Your Master Missions? To complete your Master Missions this week, you need to defeat 3 neutral and then 3 balanced, aka neutral, servants. I believe the way they decided to do this translation, because in case you don't know, all servants have D&D alignments, because Nasu is a giant dork. I feel like it's become less important over the years, but it's true. But I believe balanced is the second one. So it's, lawful. Actually, no, I think balanced is the first one. Yeah, it would be lawful, balanced, chaotic, and then good, evil, neutral. Or good, neutral, evil. Either way, you'll find them. They're out there. Then you need to defeat 15 undead enemies, and then 15 dragon enemies. That's traits, and then get 2 skill gems or statues. And for some reason I wrote 3, but that's not correct. It always goes 4. So 4 skill gems or statues. I'm reasonably certain you'll be able to accomplish this by doing the event, and if not, I'm fairly certain there's like 1 quest in Fuyuki that does all of these. Maybe 2. Undeads and dragons are like some of the most common guys in the game. Fight skeletons, fight wyverns. And I'm pretty sure Emiya is neutral, aka neutral balanced. So
yes.
Yeah, just fight Shadow Emiya and Fuyuki and you'll be good. There's a Shadow Saber altar in Fuyuki too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, she's dragon. So should be able to accomplish all of these for super low AP, but like I said, I'm pretty sure some of these are going to crop up in the event farming somewhere. But now we move on to Skelligrams. I would say not where the bulk of the show is located. News is pretty direct today. But we do have a couple of JP things that I mentioned at the top there. First of all, the predicted, prescribed, pre-announced Archer Weekly Campaign number 2, starting the 3rd of February, going until the 10th of February. And this is wrapping up all of the remaining Archer banners. So you've got Summer Jean, Ashwataman Robin, Super Orion, Summer Hime Urale, Seishonagon, Jane David, Tamitomo, Summer Ilya, Kid Gil, Takatsuki Bobo Billy, just saying that one 3 times fast, Durga, Summer Stacy Tota, Ptolemy, Zenobia, William Tell, and then King Tut, Summer Bargist, Sugitani. And with that, obviously, with the inclusion of King Tut, we are all caught up. Also, I think that means, once again, setting records. Tut's got a rate up, like, less than 6 months after he came out. That was late October, I think. So, yeah, speeding. Newman, even. But all the usual stuff, like I said, I'm not going to hammer the details too much for these because we're going to be seeing these campaigns once a week for the foreseeable future. But there's a trial quest. All your Archer dailies are open all week. You can do interludes, and you get double suck.
Yeah.
Good job. Thumbs up. And also, as mentioned at the top, the JP Valentine's 2025 pre-release campaign has started, starting the 5th, going until the 19th. So I would guess, depending on how much pre-release they want, that probably means, what, next Wednesday, the 12th, maybe? There should be a stream, but Lucky and I both don't know when that is. And I'm not sure where to double-check the Winterfest schedule. But log in for a few days to get some stuff, get a couple of gold apples, get some foes. I think there's a lore in there. They've pre-announced their bonus servants are Seishonagon, Nikich, regular Nikich, by the way, not Summer, Murasaki, Osakabe Hime, Lukusta, for normal stuff. Honestly, yeah, saying small list. I mean, this year in R is small, but it at least includes every female Valentine servant. Makes me wonder. Oh, you've got the link. Thank you. 2/9. Okay, so in a couple days. So yeah, we'll probably get new servant details and hammer everything down there. Generally, I assume that they're probably making the bonus list for Valentine's smaller. One, because it's not really needed. It is intended to be an event you can do with just Fuyuki cleared. But also, two, I'm going to guess that means there's going to be more super lock-on Chacos, so you make your own bonuses as usual. But a very interesting list. Like I said, Sei and Murasaki are pretty normal. They both debuted in Valentine's events, so makes sense. But including Hime and Yukichi and Locusta in there, very interesting. But during this time period, all those servants get half AP on rank ups in their interludes, they get double suck chance, and they get 20% bond. So I guess you can get started on your bond farming early. All of the old 3-star Valentine's command codes are in the MP shop, and that's about it. So I guess stay tuned for the stream on the 9th.
Yeah.
And in EN, as predicted, Johanna and the Unidentified Love, Smash 'em Up, Love, Lovers in the Great Stone Statue, started the 7th, will go until the 27th. It begins. Stay tuned for our first impressions later, but I do not believe that there were any other unusual or exotic announcements with that, so we're here. I did see some clips from the video. I was streaming at the time, but they did show off, like, hey, here's some of the new Valentines, what are you looking forward to most, sort of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And did, in the very same broadcast, mention, by the way, Lil of Harlot late March, so they're hammering it on. But yes, like I said, we'll talk about first impressions later, after the mailbag, and some other stuff. And I think the only other thing is that I know it was questioned about because the reactions were a little low, but I do believe they did give us the social media campaign for 6, so expect that in a couple days somewhere. But yeah, like I said, them's the news.
Them's the news. So, with that, it is time for this week's Let's Talk FGO Mailbag, the segment where we read what you have to say and comment accordingly. Let me do one last refresh here, see if anyone snuck in at the end. They did not. So, this week we have 4 lovely comments, and we will get through them all, starting right meow. So, our first one comes from Monster Girl Aficionado, who says, Dear Lucky Omega, no question this week, just sending good vibes, wah 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 wah, and wishing you well. Keep up the great work. Same to you. Sorry, I was just basking in the glow that was Brita Mart's Valentine scene. She has a plethora of walls and one tiny little wah. It's the best. I love it. So good. So good. But again, thank you for being here. We will continue to do mostly our best.
Just bobbling my head nodding along.
So, moving right along. This next one comes from the Tyrant King writing his DNA splasher for the new Jurassic World movie. I have seen a bit of things going on about that. They say, question. Hey guys, with Bakugan getting its movie now, what mid-2000s kid anime you think will get the next film treatment? My bet's Battle Be Daemon. Also, any opinions on the new Jurassic film? Anyway, that's it for me. Sending good vibes your way. Wah 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 wah. And hope you have a great evening. Oh man, 2000s kids anime.
Let's go crazy. Even though it would be terrible, because nobody will want to spend the money on the budget, give me the Metabots movie.
Metabots would be good. Or fucking fighting Foodons. That'd be wild too.
I actually still have some of the little Metabot figurines in a little box or something somewhere.
Metabots was good. I should see if I can find that again. Well, has Yu-Gi-Oh had a live action movie at any point?
No. And honestly, that's probably because I think for the most part, Konami directly, and before he passed, Takahashi Sensei, kept a decent eyeball on things. We've had some sequel movies, and I know that the 4Kids company, like, they had the original Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie made, right? Like, they requested Konami produce that property. But yeah. No. I feel like with Yu-Gi-Oh! It's one of those things where, like, no studio would want to touch that with a 10-foot pole because they're just seeing their SFX budget just climbing into the stratosphere.
Yeah, it would.
I know since 5Ds, which is the 3rd series, definitely since Zexal, which is the 4th anime series they did, they've done all the monsters in 3D CG anyway, so they've got some of the assets, but like I said, it's just one of those things of like, I wouldn't want to try it, even as a fan of Yu-Gi-Oh!, even, because I would just be like, alright, so the costuming budget, fucked. The special effects budget, fucked. And how the hell am I going to cast anybody, Who am I going to find who can be... Actually, I don't know. Getting somebody cast as Seto Kaiba is probably pretty easy. They just have to be lanky and have a real bad attitude. But where are you going to find a Maximilian Pegasus? Huh?
I don't know. But in regards to your second questions, I have no strong feelings one way or the other with the Jurassic World film franchise. It exists. That's all I can really say.
Yeah, I saw, I think most of the new trailer got, actually fed to me by, the power of YouTube ads for once. I mean, it looks all right. We're kind of returning to our roots a little, but and Gareth Edwards has done some good work, but I don't know. I feel like the previous hits in World were have been kind of previously underperforming. They've kind of tapered off. The first World was kind of novel, but I have not been hearing great things out of them since then. Oh, yeah, someone in our Patreon chat reminding us that I forgot Bamco's going forth with a live action Gundam. They phrased it as the first cinematic release of a live action Gundam. There is actually a live action Gundam movie already. It was filmed in Canada, I think, but I don't think it got a wide release. Also, it's terrible. Duh. I think it was made in the late 90s, early 2000s, so of course it's awful.
Give me a live action Ultimate Muscle. That'd be great.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be a great one. Just cast a shitload of wrestlers.
Yeah, no, I think that one's actually somewhat feasible.
I mean, yes, it's feasible, but the Hollywood treatment, right? Live action Death Note should be really easy to make, but somehow they bubbled that up.
True.
And then you'd think that, a show like One Piece, where there's lots of, supernatural powers and everybody has a weird gimmick, would be hard, but apparently they killed it. I still haven't watched the live action season. It's in my eternal backlog. But very positive reviews, and I think they wrapped filming the second season. Sorry, I inhaled a little bit. Talking about Marvel fucking up Blade, I honestly, I think Marvel's problem right now is that the MCU had an incredibly forward-thinking, really locked-in game plan, right? They built out this slate of releases designed to build up to major tentpole films, Avenger films, and kind of set everything in place. But kind of like how certain periods of comics books history has done it. So, you build everybody's solo flick to introduce the characters, and then you build that up to a big Crisis crossover event where everybody shows up and you get all your cameos and your wow factor. The problem was that they did a super mega big conclusion to that arc with the Endgame Infinity War wombo combo, and then cycled out all the characters, which is not that unusual in comics. Comic books kills off characters to recycle them all the time, right? Or just straight up retcons everybody. So that's not that weird. The main thing is that the problem for the general movie-going audience is that all the actors were tired because they were making fuck tons of money, but it's a lot of fucking work.
Yep.
To be in, your major Marvel motion picture and then also get a cameo in 4 more pictures and then be in the big finish. I think Chris Evans talked about how just fucking tired he was of, working out all the time to stay looking like Captain America and shit. I think RDJ wanted to go make artsy movies. Then they offered him so much money that he's like, well,
money.
But the problem with that then is that for the general movie-going public, well, now all their favorite characters are gone. They're all phased out, They're all dead or retired or whatever. And you got to introduce new guys. And some of those new guys are cool, but some of those new guys are not cool. And they don't have any of the teeth. So, Marvel is not getting the big hits they wanted, which, to end my anecdote, is I think the problem is now that their current slate of movies is they've been super underperforming compared to their previous generations of movie films, and I feel like they're stuck in the infinite hell of rewrites, reshoots, and just focus groups. Some of which is just due to them trying to chase finding the public opinion again, but also they have actually had problems. I know the Falcon and Winter Soldier TV show, which I still thought was okay, but it lost a lot of its teeth because the bad guys in that were originally supposed to have a plan about releasing a horrible global pandemic into the world, and the show came out wrapped filming a couple weeks or a couple months before COVID lockdowns happened, so they had to redo everything. God knows what other rewrites and reshoots and shit they've done. The previews for they're bringing back Daredevil on Disney Plus, and they got They got Charlie Cox back locked in to be Daredevil and D'Onofrio to be Kingpin, so hopefully that'll be good. But yeah, Marvel, I think, is in a really weird place with their films.
As I headbutt the mic again, as usual. All right. But I don't have anything more to say about that. And I don't think Omega does either.
I'm focused on being really self-conscious about not turning my head so fast to strike the microphone with my headset.
Yeah, especially after I just did it.
I know, it's why I'm like, shit, don't do it. Be cool.
Be cool. So we move on to the next one, which comes from Agent 418, who says, "Hello, Lucky and Omega. Have a good weekend, y'all." Well, thank you, Agent 418. I am glad to see it. Hope your weekend is going to go fantastic.
We're planning on having a good weekend.
And last but not least, it is Soul of the Lightmost Discord, who says, "Dear Omega of Setsubun and Lucky," was this Lupercalia? Lupercalia.
Yep.
What's Lupercalia? Hang on.
Like a Roman holiday that is suspiciously held at roughly the same time as St. Valentine's Feast.
Ah! Rad.
Oh, to purify the city of Rome, promoting health and fertility. Oh yeah, so it is just Roman Setsubun.
Hell yeah. Oh, interesting. This festival is part of how February got its name. Wild. Lucky has been informed. I hope I retain this information. I like this. But no questions. They say no questions this week. Just wishing you both good vibes. Wah. And a happy assorted February holidays. Got a lot of things going on. February. Setsubun, Valentine, Supercalia. I wonder if anyone actually celebrates Supercalia. I don't know.
I mean, I know that there's a few different neo-pagan groups who have kind of like gone for the retaking of holidays that, you know, the Catholic Church has conveniently re-prescribed. Which also, hey, by the way, very true, chat. Most of your major Western holidays are secretly Roman holidays that they just scribbled some saints over.
Yeah.
The Mass of Christ wasn't really associated with Christ. That's Saturnalia. And I think the Halloween, All Saints Day, is like right around the Celtic Samhain.
Yeah.
For autumnal equinox, shit like that. Easter's right around spring equinox, which I can't remember what Celtic festival that was.
Co-opting your pagan rituals for the Lord.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, the Celts are big on the big four, you know, both equinoxes, both solstices. Probably because those are one of the few things that's like, you can actually tell when they're happening on an astronomical sense if you got the right setup. You could be like, yes, we can tell the day is perfectly long because the shadows are just right.
Okay, so you celebrate Lupercalia on the 15th of November. I mean, not November, February. What do you actually do? I'm curious.
Big feast. I'm a little concerned that one of these appears to be the priest would run through the streets and whip people with animal hide. It sounds mostly like it's just an excuse for the priest to fuck around. Dedicated to Juno?
Oh, we're talking about February. I wonder if this has any relations to the Roman goddess of fevers, Febris.
Possibly, because it says that that's an ancient Italic god of purification, worshipped by both Romans and Etruscans.
Yeah, no, Febris is a Roman goddess of fever in that you worship her to keep fever away, you know? Kind of one of those things.
Also, apparently, February was the patron month of Juno. Also appears to be a lot of weird dog stuff going on.
Apparently because it was originally associated with a Arcadian Laika, a wolf festival?
Well, we've talked about this, yeah. The Arcadians love wolves. Remember, the founding king of Arcadia was Laocoon, the wolfman himself.
Yeah, no, so it just might have been one of those festivals that just evolved with sometimes.
Let's see. Justin. Also very funny to me that apparently the name, I'm going to guess it's because of church sources, but the name Justin has just stayed unchanged throughout the eons. But the Roman historian and letter writer Justin says, a cult image of the Lycaean god, whom the Greeks call Pan and the Romans Lupercus, nude save for a goatskin girdle. The statue of the Lupercal, which is said to be the space on the Palatine Hill where Romulus and Remus were shackled by the she-wolf. All pretty normal stuff. So eat big, I guess.
Yeah, cool.
History is cool.
History is cool. Just gotta remember to remind everyone, February 15th, Happy Lupercalia Day. Go howl like a wolf.
Bamboozle the hell out of the server.
I think I will. Put that on my calendar. Bamboozle the server. But that is that. That is it for the mailbag. Thank you everyone so much for who you sent in. I hope we see more of it next week. Yay!
Yes, I know you put out the note that we're free to catch up on any story questions, but it looks like people held them in reserve. Maybe they'll have more next time. Or maybe they're good. Maybe we talked about Lostbelt 7 for so many hours, everybody perfectly understands everything that happened.
Well, they're better off than I am.
No further questions.
I'm still laying in bed and going, what did that mean?
Can't even see that face.
Was this an allegory? What was the message? Like, I never actually I don't think we actually got to talk about LB7's, like, its overall themes and, you know, some of, like, the core concepts think about. So I think those have been rattling in my head still.
Yeah, we because those do not necessarily make it into the play-by-play notes format. Usually we do have a discussion on kind of, like, themes and characters, and I don't think we did do that on 7.
Unfortunately, that's because it was, like, getting close to fucking midnight. And we're like, it's time to go home.
Yeah. I mean, if we absolutely can. Hold on, let me check the clock on this episode. 34 minutes, huh?
Yeah, okay, so I guess this will be impromptu, off the cuff, Lostbelt 7's final thoughts, I suppose.
Something like that.
So, here we go. So, it took, God, almost a month. Jesus, it took a long time to finish LB7, but it is done. We are done. We are now waiting for audio call, and therefore, there's a lot to look back upon in LB7. Like I said, I am still doubling down. I don't know if people agree with me or not, and frankly, I don't care, but I do think that Lostbelt 7 was basically divided into 2 parts to kind of be this callback to Babylonia and the Time Temple of Solomon. Weird, I know, but I think it's just a little too familiar to ring false. The first half of the Lostbelt was us going through what would arguably be a quite friendly land, undergoing various trials, winning over the citizenry, culminating with us unleashing or witnessing the unleashing of a
super big bad.
A super big bad. And that's kind of where it links up with Babylonia, because in Babylonia, it was kind of the same thing. You just kind of wander around. You had to deal with 3 goddesses. Mm-hmm. Technically 4 goddesses. But one was kind of on your side from the beginning. You know, funny how that works.
Yeah.
Because that's the exact same thing that happened here.
Yeah, there were the 3 underworld guardians, and then the 4th underworld guardian was with us all along.
Yep. Yeah. And we did have our beast fight at the end with Camazotz. Well, I won't say it was necessarily to the hype and, oh god, here she comes, that Tiamat was.
Tiamat was much more talked up in story, and we had more build-up because we had, like, the femme fatale fights, you know, her small mode. Camazotz is, like, a guy, and he's a problem, but I feel like because he's crazy, he's, like, much less pushed until you get into that like what, section, like, 12 when we go to Khan's ruins? And then you're kind of like, oh, this guy's got some heavier shit, you know?
Yeah, you do. But after that, once we actually get onto the Orts and unleash Ort, I feel like someone can do a song to Heart of Sabik and just be like Heart of Ort and just make a... Sorry, I'm rambling. But after that, we definitely hit into the Time Temple of Solomon thing where we're just doing a bunch of raids. You know, all the stars in the sky are our allies, and they're gonna get slurped up by fucking Ort, the fucking planet eater. Great. Lovely. Like I said, there was a fair amount of story. Like, they weren't, like, actually separate, but they did have, I feel, very, very distinct game and story feels in them. Which will lead us into our audio call, which I'm calling it fucking Epic of Remnant 2, only you have to do it this time.
It does kind of feel like audio call was built to be like, okay, so we did Epic of Remnant as, like, a weird gap year experiment, right? To, like, because we're like, we need to buy some time before the Lostbelts are ready and we've got all our assets in order. We need to come up with some reason for you guys to fuck around. Okay, they're leftover demon pillars, sure. But I feel like the story writing was much more rushed, much more off the cuff. Like, and several of the Epic of Remnants were way more controversial than I think any other FGO chapters, except maybe like Septim have been.
I think everyone was okay with Shinjuku and Shimosa. I don't think anyone had anything bad to say about that. I think people did definitely have bones to pick with Agartha and Salem, though.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I will say, for Shimosa, I have heard over the years some people criticize it because it is Musashi-centric. it does kind of go along with the fact that she also got her like trial quest and stuff. People did kind of feel like she was pushed. There was favoritism towards her in the story, which of course there was. Duh.
Why not?
How do you think writers work?
Yeah.
But I think as time has gone on, and both with how kind of Musashi's arc in FGO concludes, and also everybody realizing that Shimosa was actually the epic of Remnant that actually mattered. It was the proto Lostbelt, kind of like turned some heads on it. Also, they turned it into a manga which has delicious fight scenes, so that goes a long way.
Yeah. Also, again, we did have our 5th epic of Remnant, the Seraph one, which, again, they've already pulled an Ordeal Call.
Yeah.
It's like, nah, man, the parallels, they too strong.
And also, speaking of nobody fights anybody that Seraph's good. Seraph is wonderful.
Yes. Also, I also do want to shout out Robin's line when I said epic remnant of epic of you're gonna fucking read it this time.
Yeah.
That's why I laughed earlier.
Oh, that does remind me. Somebody in the comments last week, I think it was, they talked about how fan translation sites and communities, who study the JP stuff as it come out, have actually reported. So the first two Ordeal Calls are like character length wise, around like a long EOR or short Lostbelt story.
Okay.
Ordeal Call 3, not counting the fact that it has a summer on the front of it, is a long Lostbelt length, because of course it is. Thank you, Mr. Nasu. This means that when you combine it with the summer main story, the reading is unfortunately large. You can check the comments yourself. So between the fact that it's a full-blown summer event and then also an Ordeal Call after that part, Ordeal Call 3 is huge. But the other two Ordeal Calls are much more manageable lengths.
We should probably commit to taking good notes this time, and definitely for Ordeal Call 3 then. I ain't gonna remember shit otherwise, though.
Yeah.
Help.
Hey, everybody, get ready for 2 months of episodes on Ordeal Call, because that takes a long time to come out, too.
It probably works out for the better, honestly. So we'll probably start our notes on the summer event, and then go from there, as it all combines. Great! So mechanically and story-wise, I do like LB7, as it is. Like I said, it's split into 2 big parts. They even have a name change in the second of it. It's cool. It's fine. Some people take issue with that comparison, but I don't care.
I mean, I feel like if people are taking issue, it sounds like they're nostalgia goggling a little for part 1.
Maybe.
Like, part 1 obviously is kind of like everybody who was playing FGO at the time has kind of crystallized the ending of part 1 as like, yeah, that was real good. We concluded and everything. But the front half of part 1 was also very rough.
I'll be fair. I even think the front half of the Lostbelt was very rough. Like, Russia was good and accepted a lot of stuff, but I don't think it was necessarily amazing. Neither was Goddard Damarong. I'm sorry, I couldn't actually think of the fucking name of the Lostbelt all of a sudden.
Yeah, I don't think they were as highly ranked as like later Lostbelts. I do feel like they much better had hit their stride though in terms of like writing and pacing and set pieces than like compared to say Orleans and Septum.
Well, yeah, that's true, and I would hope so after they've been in that game for like, what was that, like the 3rd or 4th year?
Yeah, no, that would be the tail end of like year 3 into year 4.
Yeah, but still, it's like even like early parts of the Lostbelts were slow. Like once we hit LB3, that's when we started getting a little bit more crazy.
Well, on LB3, that was the comparison point where some people said like Ordeal Call like 1 and 2 are around like LB3 in length. LB3 had very tight pacing. Like, parts of it felt maybe a little fast, but in general, I think in retrospect, the pacing of it was very tight and it flowed very well. Like, I don't really think there were, like, fights that kind of, like, overstayed their welcome or anything, you know? Like...
No, I think there was a few tough fights, but nothing that made you want to...
We didn't have to fight Izkali 4 times in Lostbelt 3.
He just wouldn't stay down!
I mean, to go back to LB7's theme, I think actually the last Izkali fight being easy as pie, like... Obviously, he still has all his things going for him, but if you have the right servants, it's real easy to scrunch up. Is like, that's actually meant to be a storytelling thing, you know?
Well, he does mention in that fight, I see, you are no longer trying to desperately, protect your allies. You are actually fighting me.
Yeah.
It's like, we were actually able to focus on beating him somehow. But, like, that's one of the interesting things about the Lostbelt. Like, it's even mentioned at some point, but at no point did the Lostbelt necessarily feel like your enemy. As you never were, like, fighting against the Lostbelt. Like, the Danos are there, like, oh, you're here to destroy Lostbelt? Well, it's gonna happen anyway, cool. We're on your side, don't worry. Even Cuckoo, the archetype Miklon, the heart of an invader, just kind of was like, yeah, I'm gonna totally kick your ass, but everyone constantly says, like, no, you're not, Cuckoo, stop that. And, she just mentions that at the end, it's like, we never actually fought at all this entire time, and you're just like, nope.
Yeah, she desperately says that she wants to fight us, but it's not true. We're just not. We're not going to do that.
We're not going to do that. And I think this actually comes into, like, what I think is probably, like, maybe, like, one of the key takeaways I have from this Lostbelt. And that is, which I find hilarious since this is based in Mesoamerican culture, but following your heart. There's a lot of talk about, people and their desires and whether they act upon them or not in this. You can say this is like a, you can say like this is a major part of, is Colley's like overall, storyline. He was literally created to be the 1 year's Tezcatlipoca, but at the very end, kind of changed his mind because, he prioritized something else. God damn it. Over that, followed his own heart and, wished for maybe something better for his people. Same with Tenochtitlan, seeing that, finally the Osalome, were standing and fighting for her city, so she, stopped lying to herself and did what she really wanted to do. The Danos, having lived God knows how long, just doing the same thing over, never really changing, finally get to do something different. As Tepu says at one point, finally get to make a mistake. They get to make that choice at the end to do things. There's a lot of realizing what you want and what you want to do and what you need to do and trying to put it all together in this story. Like, several times, like, there's a lot of conversations about, is it okay to accept your extinction and whatnot? Is it good to, treat everything as truly equal and whatnot? Is it okay to, like, stifle yourself for the greater good? That's like another major thing of Cuckoo's story is she was constantly telling herself she has to be the arbiter. She's not allowed to feel remorse or pain because it's cruel to people. And Tep is just all like, fuck that. Do what you want.
Yeah, he's just like, hey, guess what? You could do whatever you like.
No, so there's a lot of themes of following your hearts in here, following your desires, being who you want to be, doing what you want to do, because just food, trying to escape. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's a strong thematic through line about, like you said, I guess, like personal desire and direction versus what's best for the planet. And the planet kind of being like a sub-in for the greater good.
I would use the term, it's the small picture versus the big picture. I think it is, because David sees on the universal picture.
Yeah, and I guess that's true. You go even bigger than the planet Earth with David's contributions as well.
Yeah,
but they start the whole thing, right? They start this whole Lostbelt process with the idea of pitching Ort as the super threat optional boss. We absolutely cannot hope. If the Foreign God and Ort team up, we absolutely cannot hope to defeat them. Mm-hmm. And, well, who the fuck is this guy? Well, Ort showed up on the planet for a reason because, he's early to a party. Well, what do? Well, so long as the planet doesn't scream, Ort doesn't wake up. Basically, especially with the information we get on archetypes later, kind of alluding to the fact that, like, yeah, Ort's here because humans are so divergent as a species that we act against our own planet so that, despite the fact that we're the prime species of this planet, we're also, consuming Gaia's resources, and eventually she's gonna get mad at us enough to call for other ultimate ones to come beat us up.
If I remember the line directly, it's not necessarily that she's mad that we're consuming resources, but that we would... Oh, how was this put? It's basically she's mad that we'll leave her one day and not look back. Yeah, we'll outlive her. Thank you.
I'm not sure if that is the exact read, like based on some other information there, because I don't know if the issue is about us leaving behind. Maybe the not looking back part, but the idea that we would consume all of the Earth's resources to do so. Because, again, we weren't planning on this, so I didn't think to do it ahead of time. Still need to catch up on the Notes short story. But what if I remember the summary of Notes is that basically in the future of Notes, humanity has reached such a state where the mana on the surface of the Earth is completely depleted, so, the normal biosphere dies. Humans should die out, but use technology to adapt, basically. And it's this moment that Gaia is like, oh, these guys have killed me, but they're gonna keep living? All right, guys, fuck them up. I'm tired. So in a sense, yes, we will outlive her, but we will outlive her after killing her.
Oh, yeah, that's what I mean, because I'm pretty sure she said, it was said that she wouldn't have minded if we had died with her, but since we had the audacity to, I guess you said, consume all her resources and then leave, she's a little mad. And I'm gonna be real, I would be too. If someone came over, ate all my food, and just fucking left, I want to kill them too.
Oh, we could do a teach me. I think we've talked about the ultimate ones before, but we have a lot more. But I feel like I don't know if I want to pull that trigger yet, because I feel like I mentioned this a couple of times in the Lostbelt discussion and the Wanteds. I feel like Nasu has more to write about this idea that will become clear as we go on.
I don't know. He said that he's finally done with Ort. He got to write the Ort story that he wanted, so I don't know.
Well, yes, for Ort he's done, but for the concept of the ultimate ones, and kind of explaining them, I think he's got more to say. So we'll check back in maybe once we read his giant ordeal call, because like I said, that's the other thing we talked about, right? The reason why the confusion about Ort's joke name stays in Lostbelt 7 is that Lostbelt 7 itself isn't really concerned with where Ort came from or what Ort really is.
Actually, if we're going to be super specific, the LB7 Ort isn't actually Ort. It's a weaker subspecies of Ort.
True. It is a variant. He's from a what if timeline.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, we put these qualifications in there. Oh, it's not the real Ort. It's even though several. I feel like Nasu has to double talk to the audience, right? Where they're like, no, players, don't feel bad. You definitely killed Ort and you should be proud. But also, we have to keep the old school lorehead otaku happy by telling them that, the actual Ort is much stronger because they're going to get mad at us. Nasu, you should just take all of your old Battle Border fans and, bury them inside the server room of FGO when you kill it to make FGO 2. Just get rid of them. We don't need them. Yes, no, I think also Legendary has a perfectly fine point of well, yeah, no duh, Ort in the proper timeline's gonna be stronger. It has its heart, and it's not pretending it doesn't have it has a heart kind of a thing,
Yes, but it also does state up straight in the server that it is a subspecies and therefore weaker. Maybe because it was part of the deviation that caused it to arrive earlier, and the fact that maybe it was killed once already.
Also, the Mala put Ort to sleep after its heart got taken out too.
Yes, no, there's a lot of things that went into this. So it's not just one particular thing, but a bevy of things.
But ultimately, like I said, the intro to the Lostbelt and the whole Lostbelt 7 story just pitches Ort as this great, big, scary outside thing, right? It does not really bother to say how it came to be. They don't actually explain, exactly, why Ort came here. There's allusions, but, because it's future knowledge, the people in the timeline wouldn't know exactly what the circumstances are anyway. But, he's just kind of like a boogeyman. He's a classic outside of context problem. He is a truly alien who's here to fuck our shit up, which is why his true form is a giant flying saucer.
Yeah, explain that one to me, Nasu.
Yeah, and
he's just going to go flying. Yeah, it's a flying saucer. Flying saucers are the ultimate in the extraterrestrial romance, so it makes perfect sense for Ort.
Yes.
That's what he's going to say.
But yeah, like I said, that's, we don't actually bother exploring what created Ort, because like I said, if Ort is a proper ultimate one, it is supposed to be the ultimate expression, the culmination of life and history of a planet somewhere. He should be kind of like the archetype of wherever he came from and more. But where did he come from? What are they like? How did they start this process? Are we just supposed to believe that there were little, nuclear fusion powered crystal spiders on Mercury or in the Oort cloud who just eventually decided to, kaiju together? I don't know. Do we need to know the answer? Not really, but it's
not really, but
it's one of those things that's like, yeah, it's still, the concept is still open-ended. So, like I said, I think Nasu got his Oort out, but, and I feel like that's true, right? That he has had this Oort-shaped gun on the mantle for years, and finally got to pull a trigger and actually show it, because in no other circumstance could you show Oort on screen and not have him, like, fuck everybody's shit up.
Yeah, now that I think about it, like, I think probably because, last week I pulled up the interviews for it, and Nasu actually talked about this, like of how hard it was to bring Oort down to, like, a level where it could be defeated. Like, so that's how we got it arrived earlier. It already was killed. It was a subspecies. It was already killed one. It doesn't have its heart. We are going to literally throw everything at it. And then only then, barely then, are you able to defeat it.
And we still have to cheat because we have, our own mega super powerful being on our side who, like, stops time and instantly recharges our giant, threat to humanity slaying gun, etc.
I'm getting the, the one radiant thing pin, and I'm putting that on my fucking collar, but boy howdy, that was a happenstance of happenstances to pull that off.
It's the note where, like, it goes on your Lifetime Achievement Award, but it does have a little asterisk there.
It's like, participated in the operation. But yeah, also speaking of, like, characters following your heart, a lot of the, your Olga Marie, that was a lot of that. Which I find hilarious, considering she was actually missing it. Jesus.
Well, and that's, I think kind of supposed to be why she is so... When we find her, she has amnesia, she's so lost and confused, and then kind of, like, she literally finds her heart by discovering it's currently embedded inside David's chest, but also figuratively finds her heart when she decides to just follow her dreams, I guess, and, save the Earth.
I believe that is what we call irony, being able to find your heart because someone else stole it, literally.
Yeah, and, we go through all these motions, and then we kind of, like I said, get the final bullet point on that is the fucking Metal Gear Solid-ass phone call at the end between Kotomine and Romani Gatia.
God, I want to see that as a fucking codec call. Just put them on the screen, just chew.
Especially with the two actors, that would be great. Like, actually get them to read some dialogue. I mean, usually the Metal Gear Solid phone calls are one-sided, but still, it would be very funny to see them talking like that, yeah. But, like, the reveal that, like, oh, no, Olga Marie was not actually the foreign god herself. She was secretly the seventh disciple. She was still the leader of all the disciples and the strongest of them. She was supposed to be the leader of this operation of the Grand Order. But, she was merely working for Chaldeus behind the scenes.
It still blows my mind that we were able to piece together that she was the alien on the fucking table that got tortured for 100 years. That's so wild to me. That literally kept me up that night, just like, what?
Yeah, that's a heavy hitter. And that was in the audio call prologue, too. That shit didn't... The best case of understanding that information didn't come out until after the Lostbelt was already over.
Yeah, no, there would be no way to understand that.
But yeah, so that kind of, like... When you take all that into context, I think that gives Olga Marie, like, a real character arc, which is another thing that feels like it's on Nasu's bucket list, because, like, we've talked about this before. There's a TV trope name for this. It's called Sacrificial Lion. Relation to Digimon's Leomon, technically unrelated. But there is, like, a writing trope where early you build up a character who's supposed to be, not necessarily stronger than the protagonists, but, like, knows what's going on, has a head on their shoulders, seems like they're going to be an important and powerful character, but they job out and are killed to kind of, like, set up the rest of our characters to live up to their example. And that is, like, kind of, where Olga Marie was. Like I said, the way TV Tropes writes it, the difference is basically that a sacrificial lamb is, like, a character who is, so soft, like, you didn't think they had the fight in them. Olga Marie is, she's the director. She's, the daughter of a prestigious mage. Hell, we've seen her in other media. When she's a fucking kid in Case Files, she summons a storm of meteors, right, to defeat vampire trees. Crazy things you can say about Nasu. like, she's supposed to be a bigger deal, and then Lev is just like, hey, Olga Marie, guess what? I fucked you over. And I'm going to fuck you over again. Yeet! And you're just like, damn. And, like, obviously, that's got pretty normal stuff. And I want to say, I think Nasu and Co. kind of like that vibe. Like, almost always, if you think about, like, classic Fate roots and some other writing, there's almost always some kind of character who's, you know, pretty cool and kind of ahead of the gang. But then they ultimately job out before the finish to let you know how high the stakes are. Like, Archer gets taken out in the Fate route. A little bit before the climax in Unlimited Blade Works, you know, Ku gets command spelled to kill himself kind of a thing. Like, there's always these moments of, like, there are some pretty cool guys who are on our side, and then they job out, and we're like, oh shit, it's real now. I think technically the sacrificial type, I mean, he's not really sacrificial, but, like, that the equivalent character in Heaven's Feel, I would say, is actually Herc, because you get on Ilya's side, but the Herc, you know, ultimately loses out. I would say no, because, I mean, it's a little like that, but the thing is that you got to remember, in the original context of Fate Stay Night, you don't know Bazette exists. Like, it's just in Kotomine's dialogue that, you know, oh, I killed Lance's original master and stole their command spells. Like, she doesn't actually get a character arc about that until Hollow Ataraxia, which they'll announce that port eventually. I know they said they're going to do it, so.
Honestly, I think my Myersburg's plans for Olga were nothing. He did not care.
Yeah, that's probably the most cynical read.
I mean, you might be cynical, but you got to remember, he's a traditional mage. As we have established, traditional mage families are hyper-focused on reaching the root using whatever means they have necessary, which means they usually tend to treat their heirs as just the next step in getting said plan done.
Yeah, Robin, I think, said it best there. I think his plan was just that because he was so confident the plan would go off without a hitch that he literally, you know, kills himself before David can kill him, because he's like, no, you don't understand, David. I'm so committed. My plan is going to work. Watch this. Like, he would have known then that his crest would have passed on to Olga. Also, by the way, actually, I forgot about this, but this is a fun little detail to bring up. By the way, we've talked about this. Mage crests are, like, hard-coded on a psychological level to have your extend your survival and stuff in them. Because that's part of Gaetia's plan. Like, in case you guys didn't know, Gaetia taught the Goetic demons taught mages how to do that shit, how to preserve the magic crest that way, because it's all part of his plan to ensure that there would be at least 72 bloodlines with enough magical energy to become demon pillars. Like, it's all a con. We've been inside Gaetia's web this entire time. But that means that Marsbury had enough force of will and just enough chutzpah to be like, nah, man, I can kill myself in Minecraft. And I do kind of wonder, since he hung out with King Solomon, if he would have known if the design of preserving Mage Crest was a trap. But yeah, like, I presume then that his plan was that Olga would inherit the NSU family crest. She's not as strong as Wodaime, but obviously because she has 0 master potential, she was never going to go on ray shifts anyway, and that she would basically just hold down the fort.
Until everything went off.
Yeah.
And then Lev fucked it up.
Yeah. I mean, we all know Lev multi-fucked it. Like, because Solomon was already Romani at this point, you know, he doesn't have his clairvoyance anymore. Lev, you know, blowing up the command room with and the coffins with all of the, whatchamacallit, all of the Team A out there, all of the original Cryptors, you know, that was also not to plan. We've already talked about how, like, again, Marsbury had a very, very cynical, direct strategy to get through the incineration of humanity. You know, he was like, all right, everybody, you're gonna, my plan is, if these 7 bozos I've chosen can't accomplish these things, I'm going to have them blow themselves up on the Holy Grails.
I'm gonna be real. I know fucking Barrow was supposed to be the clean man, but I don't know if he could have got over one on David. I really don't think he could have.
Well, and I think ultimately, you know, the way it works out is, actually, this is a very good question. David wasn't actually a Cryptor. Did he say whether or not he has a Sirius light?
I don't know.
Because remember, Mash was originally supposed to get one of the Sirius lights. This was Barrel's condition for actually going through with being the cleanup man and getting his own serious light was, no. MASH can't be a bomb, because I want to see her, go through all our fucked up trauma.
I guess this is another reason why David said that Beryl got what he wanted.
Yeah. Once again, dear God, praying Beryl Gut stays fucking dead and does not come back for the climax. Or if he does, he shows up on the enemy team so I can fucking kill him again. Thank you. Beryl Gut raid for Matt's when. I gotta tell you, if they made Beryl Gut a raid boss, that motherfucker is dead. That'll be the fastest raid finished in FGO history.
Because David did have command seals, because he did use them, but
yeah.
Again, like someone mentioned that Olga with 0 mass potential, but David's out there. David's also, technically speaking, not human.
Yeah. And as we've seen, David doesn't need master potential to solve humanity, the incineration of humanity. Like, he can't summon servants, but he can, create terminals.
Yes, I do actually find it somewhat poetic that his command seals were looking somewhat wing-like.
That's also an old school callback, because I think it was in like Fate Prototype or maybe Old Fate. They like the command spells were like related to like ranks of angels and have like an angel wing motif. It's something they never actually utilized because I think they went for like the just finding the cool triptych design more practical, but there are some very flowery ones in some like concept art somewhere.
Rad.
Yeah, so it's like a double throwback. Well, and that's the thing about like, again, we talked about this. David summoned Tezcatlipoca. I think he intentionally called out to him, but as we said, if anybody could sign up with a guy who's fundamentally not part of human order, it's Tezcatlipoca.
Yeah, no, like I don't actually ever get the impression that David was like ordering Tez around like a servant. It was more like a comrade.
Yeah.
I don't think they actually had like the master-servant relationship. I think they were just two dudes set on to fucking destroying the world. I'm pretty sure that David just performed like a fucking wild summoning, pulled Tez out the ring. He's like, hey man, you want to hear my plan? And Tez was like, yes, lay it on me, brother.
Well, and I think because of the way how Tezcatlipoca worked, I think he made himself a servant just to show up for David. Because we've talked about this, normally divine spirits cannot become a servant container without some extra fluffing. Most of the ones we have are possessing human bodies or are otherwise filtered, or their divinities are so dog shit that they're weaker than heroic spirits normally. Hi, Steno and Urale. But Tez created his own human body, like whole cloth. He made a human vessel in his own image to possess, to be summoned as a servant. And that's who shows up to David's summons. So, like, I think he like, made a new body just to show up and be like, brother, you've got a great plan. I'm excited to be a part of it. It's kind of like, we talked about this last week when somebody asked, where the Tezcatlipoca we see in Chaldea is an assassin only because he's, like, doing a solid for Old Man Gramps and playing at being Grand Assassin. No, Ketz did not make a body for herself. It's claimed that the body Ketz has is based on a previous host, a person who held the supercorn inside their body and played the role of Quetzalcoatl, so a priest. There were also a couple of historical kings who were named Quetzalcoatl, so that may be kind of the origin point there. But yeah, that's why Ketz is like interested in shit like lucha libre and other modern concepts. She's been summoned into the body of a priest at some other point during a more modern time and was like, yeah, this shit's rad. Remember, the body of the pseudo-servant, performs influence over the final product. Yeah, there they are. We're like, I'm pretty sure it's Prototype is all these. Yeah, and they're all named after ranks of angels.
Rad. But, yeah, no, David's whole thing, I think, was probably pretty confusing. And at the end, I don't think I really necessarily understand him any. Well, I understand him, but I don't know if I understand him, He is mysterious, aloof, and lives his days 5 minutes at a time. I think there is just a level of empathy you cannot reach with him.
Yeah, I think they said it pretty good in the Ordeal Call prologue after, where they're like, we can't understand why he would go to these lengths, but we can, comprehend, like, his operations, basically. We can understand what he was doing, and we can understand his stated reasons for that, but as humans, we can't tabulate the two, like we would never come to the same conclusion as David, even if we can, I guess, backtrack what he did, right?
Yeah.
And that's why they do that conversation about Marsbury's motivations, which are still unclear. They're like, okay, so Marsbury, as a mage, as a human, must have had what we humans would understand as good intentions, otherwise he could not summon King Solomon. King Solomon would not have answered his summons. But also, he's a mage and a clock tower lord, so his point of view is obviously going to be skewed to normal humans as well. And I feel like David is kind of the opposite of that, where, like, at his core, David's rules of operation are what he says they are, right? He's like, well, before I ended up in a fucked up episode of The Twilight Zone, my dad said that humans fundamentally desire to do good. So that's just what I'm gonna do. It's just that because, like you say, he's been seeing the world on, like, the scale of the entire time frame of the known universe, that...
Thanks, angels.
Yeah, that his idea of what good is very skewed. Like, he ultimately realizes that what Kaldias and the Animasphere Grand Order is going to do will be not good, capital letters, and thus he will do anything to stop it, because David's scale of operation is, the entire visible universe. Whereas to us on Earth, we're like, man, couldn't we have solved this problem smaller scale? And David is like, actually, no, I couldn't have. That's kind of my whole problem, man. I don't have any I can't make connections at this small a scale, so I could not have figured this shit out. I never would have thought, in his own words, to defeat the old Chaldea with a new Chaldea. I kind of feel like he's similar but different to Wodaime in that respect. Like, Wodaime also has a huge macro scale plan, but also, like, the secret about Wodaime was that his motivations are, like, way more beneficent than we think.
Well, Daimo was just a genuinely good dude.
Yes, like, his plan is actually to literally uplift all of humanity, and push them to the next level of evolution, and just, like, that's his strategy for getting around the bleaching of Earth, is just like, okay, so we don't know what's gone with the old where old humanity's gone. What's happened with the bleaching of Earth? I'm just gonna skip that step, and I'm just going to make humanity 2.0 right here, right now, and trust they can figure out the rest of this shit. And I'm gonna bounce, become as gods. And it was probably one of the most, like, truly forward-thinking, progressive and aiming for the net good plans Wodaime could come up with the cards he was dealt. And, the tragedy of Wodaime is we only get to realize this, like, 5 minutes before Beryl Gut puts a knife in his back and then has Morgan fire the Rungominiad nuclear missiles at him.
Well, yeah, because we figure this out as he is, in the middle of betraying the foreign god.
Yeah, he's like, the foreign god's gonna come down from the tree, and then Wodaime's like, well, actually, would you believe I've summoned a third servant? It's Atlas. He's been inside the tree the entire time. Therefore, I command the tree. Atlas, god who, carries the world on his shoulders, reallocate all the magical energy to summon the foreign god, who, as we know, is, supposed to be the ultimate strongest beast-classed servant, Beast 7 Olga Marie, President of Earth. Redirect that into the remaining humans and upgrade them into, being divinities in their own right. And it would have worked, except for two factors. One, getting stabbed in the back, and two, the foreign god somehow already predicted this and summoned a guy exactly to stop this plan. It was Muramasa. This really makes me wonder, though, what the fuck... I guess just for, like, testing the concept, like, I still don't get why the foreign god summoned Doman. Like, what does he do?
Well, let's see. Maybe they had to be summoned in maybe 7 was the special number you had to summon in.
I guess, because the way they phrased it is there were 3 for the Cryptors. Rasputin, Kotomine is one of them. Muramasa was another, but he was specifically summoned to prevent the Cryptors from betraying them by doing the tree plan. Doman just kind of, like, fucks around and finds out. Like, he does poison the shit out of Kadok when Kadok, like, finds out the truth behind the whole plan, so he can't blab to anybody. And then, like, Doman does actively investigate some areas like Lostbelt 4, and he obviously did set up Shimosa, but I guess maybe that's what it was he was like trying to prove the concept that the trees work by creating Shimosa as a Lost Belt.
Yeah, maybe he actually like set up the seeds or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And then obviously the ones we got Holmes in order to allow us to help solve the incineration of humanity and make it through the first couple Lost Belts before ultimately, stopping us from actually figuring out what the fuck is going on. Moriarty was summoned strictly to back up or to backstop Holmes in case Holmes didn't go through with his part of the plan and finish us off. Which does mean, I guess we can say that the Foreign God did have some disposable slots because, Moriarty seems to have only been summoned just before Traum and, very specifically tuned to do that strat. Though also, kind of in an interesting way to, whatchamacallit, based on his actions, young Moriarty was also possibly supposed to, join us. I feel like the Foreign God, or the Foreign Planet, I should say, Caldia set him up so that he could have, tried to weasel his way in, and just, the only reason why he does it is because we're better than that, and we're just no, I'm not gonna get, no.
If we hadn't met Old Man Moriarty, maybe.
Yes. But the way young Moriarty was just too much no, dude, of course, I trust you about as far as I can throw you. And then we have a third guy who is just the unnamed Count, and then Olga was number 7. But yeah, so there's a lot going on there with and I feel like the game intentionally has us compare Wodaime and Davit. Especially once Davit says, by the way, Wodaime and I had a secret unspoken plan. We never discussed it, but we figured whichever one of us was left at the end, if we got this far, would tell you what's really going on.
I'm sorry, what made me go, cool? How did you actually wing that? Did you just communicate with eye contacts and, body language? What is this?
I'm just imagining that, they had a whole conversation, spanning multiple hours about what their plans are, and then Wodaime was like, all right, Davit, I need you to forget everything but the last line of this conversation, and I'm just not going to say anything because that's my superpower, baby, not telling anybody anything. And Davit was like, cool. Just play the VHS tape rewinding sound, and he's just like, I forgot everything. I do also think Davit is supposed to be portrayed as, because his, we talk about his scale of vision. He says he's really good at reading people. His view is so macro scale that I bet Davit could have just seen the way Wodaime was acting and been like, oh, you know what's up. You've got a secret plan. I also have a secret plan. Let's do a secret handshake so that, we let the Master of Chaldea know about the double secret plan if they get through this, assuming our plans don't work.
God, that's so weird. Davit in his own way was such a bro. He was just so aloof at the same time.
And I do like that they sorry, go ahead.
He can crack his own jokes and whatnot, but they're very, deadpan, dry humor. And no matter what you say, he was a good I want to say senpai, but it's probably not necessarily. He was a good
I think that's the word I was thinking of. He was a very dutiful senpai. That's what I was gonna say is because they do a great job of explaining why he is the way he is with the 5 minutes a day thing. It's still a fucked up Twilight Zone episode, but that's why everything he does is okay, I don't have a lot of time to process all of this because that's just more shit I'm either going to have to choose to remember or to forget later. And I wonder, actually, thinking about when he's you want my direct thoughts on my fellow Cryptors? Okay, I'm going to give it to you, straight in 5 minutes or less. Is that him saying that he wants to remember exactly what he told us for later? He wants to make sure it fits in his 5-minute time window so he can remember this conversation? Says a lot about how he feels about his teammates, but, that's why he's always rushing.
No, I think Nasu says that that Davit cared about his fellow teammates. It wouldn't have stopped him from killing them if he thought that they would get in the way of his plan, but he did care. I believe a conversation comes up asking if why did Davit potentially spare Kadok, and that's because Davit said he wasn't an obstacle to his plan. But he has also said that Davit, much like Wodaime, because Wodaime really came to know everyone because he did the 7 simulations of the incineration of humanity with everyone so that they wouldn't have to. During that time, Wodaime really got to know them and, kind of had this, what do I want to call it? he knew them. Wodame knew the rest of the Cryptors way more than they knew him. So, you know, Wodame was kind of like, he thought of himself as all friends, even if they didn't necessarily think so. And David's, I think, is kind of the same way. Like, Kadok, like, you get a lot of scenes with Kadok saying, like, yeah, no, David's a good dude, he's just fucking weird.
Yeah, I feel like, talk about it, you know, the conversations are always like, yeah, Kadok doesn't hate his guts, but understands him, you know, like, they understand each other very well. Whereas, like, their relationship, like, everybody's relationship with Wodame is much more standoffish, because I feel like everybody else on the Cryptors understood that Wodame had them pegged way more than they had him pegged, and I think they all just kind of thought it was because of mage bullshit, and so they just kind of, like, kept him at arm's length. The exception to this is Ophelia, who, thanks to her mystic eye, was able to understand what Wodame went through for all of them, but also that whole business, you know, really fucked her shit up. One, because she accidentally saw Surtur in the space between spaces, and also just because she didn't, you know, see the rest of the... It feels like Wodame was parasocial with the rest of the team. It is kind of like that, but it's like, it's a weird kind of parasocial, because, like, they were hanging out the whole time from his perspective, but from the other's perspective, they didn't get any of that hangout time. Like, if I had to rank, like, how friendly everybody was, like, honestly, I think in terms of bonding with the team, I think David has to go at least in the middle. He definitely has to go above Beryl. Beryl seems like he hung out with the crew, but also he's a two-faced little bastard, so I assume all of his interactions with the whole team were fake. Just because of how much of a shitheel he is. And we know for a fact that as Akuta, Yu Paisen was like a brick, you know? Like, all she did was sit in the room and pretend to read books. You know, like, they just... she existed and didn't interact with them. Which is saying something that David was probably more humanizing and friendly with the crew than Yume Ren was, because she's also not human, but, you know, she's an immortal semi-vampire fairy lady.
Actually, again, calling back to the interview, Nasu actually calls that out. He says that as Akuta, she was able to sense that there was something not human about David and just stayed the fuck away from him.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like she would, because it's talked about a little in, like, her servant skills and powers, you know, the stuff she has with, like, incarnated elemental and so on. You know, as Akuta, she hasn't died yet, so she isn't, like, trying to fit into a heroic spirit container. So, like, she just passively feeds off mana from the land and stuff. I don't know what like David's personal meridians and shit are like, but I bet they have to be real fucked up.
I think, if I remember correctly, in LB7, a lot of his observational data was just a void in the world. So it might have been something akin to that. Like, maybe she just felt nothing. Nothing in, you know, the bad way.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the absence of air. Kind of nothing.
But yeah, I think everybody else in this, like David's in, like, the top end of the lower third, but he's still in the middle of the pack. Because we know that Pepe's gregarious as fuck. Kadok was, like, the salty little baby of the group, you know. Wodame was the leader, and presumably had, you know, some level of charisma. You know, he has human experiences to back up on, and has a lot of shit going on in his life. And Ophelia was, you know, probably the stern number 2 type character. You know, I imagine her as the put upon serious one who has to deal with, you know, Wodame and David being inscrutable, and Akuta being unscrutable too, and then, you know, Pepe and Beryl being weird.
Yeah, actually, I do think that everyone liked Kadok. I don't think anyone necessarily looked down upon Kadok. Except Kadok. Kadok looked down on Kadok.
Yeah, and that's why I said I think he's the little salty baby of the team. Like, everybody liked him, but also he has such a big chip on his shoulder and is complex about being a crappy mage that he probably was like, ah, man, I don't fit in this group at all.
And everyone else was just happy to have him there. Except Akuta. Akuta probably literally did not care.
I don't know. I feel like out of the others, again, why don't we get more Pice and Kadok interactions? It can totally happen. I feel like she probably would relate to Kadok the most if they actually sat down and talked, because, like, she's an elemental who it sounds like she spent chunks of her time just living in the wilderness, not being near humans, and Kadok is a wilderness mage who spends some of his time hanging out with nothing but animals. Like, I feel like, there's room for them to just kind of be like, so you spend a lot of time by yourself, huh? I'd be like, yeah, cool, let's keep doing that. But Scandinavia Peppercino was just like, no, Kadok, you can't sit by yourself. Come, we must play Settlers of Catan. I think it's not a Golden Goose situation. I think it's a spoiler situation. They went to great lengths to figure out how to integrate Yume Ren as a welfare character for a summer, to the point of, like, the ludicrous, hiding her face with sunglasses type shit, Like, so if you wrote a seasonal story event that you wanted Kadok to appear in, you would first have, well, that means you canonically have to set it, probably like, somewhere around the Tunguska or Trom zone, or later, so that he's, not dying of being poisoned. But then you'd have to have a note to explain, like, how he got there, and you would have to exclude people from that story conclusion, right? Because there's no way you could have it be a Fuyuki clear to unlock the main story, and then have this Kadok guy show up and explain how the fuck he got from being enemy number one to your best pal, right? Just writing-wise, it's too big of a gap to jump. And I think, honestly, that's even though I don't like it, I think that's why Paisen also doesn't get mentioned, because her normal form is a story-locked servant, It's one of those things where, like, because I think FGO does genuinely have a problem of approachability, like, there's so much in the story backlog that people feel, like, daunted to get through it all. They're very careful about these events that are going to have servants that are going to be, like, in demand, to bring players back in to make them feel like they're catching up with story. Obviously, a lot of last year's events, and presumably this year's events, have been about progging main story, but, we're in year 9 of the game, and then they're like, we're getting serious about you progging main story. And even then, I still hear people complaining, by the way, about, like, oh man, I can't believe this next, this summer event needs me to clear both ordeal calls. Like, I have heard people say that, and I don't know if it's just because they're, like, English players playing the Japanese version, but I hear it. People complain about having to catch up with story to do events, so if they're doing that, like on JP Twitter and stuff, I'm sure the devs are listening. Yeah, it's also, there was some stuff about, the whatchamacallit, Samurai Remnant, being so story heavy as a crossover, when some people were like, but I haven't played Samurai Remnant yet. Well, you knew the game was going to come out. It's been out for a couple months now. Was it like 3 months before the collab came out? Not a very long window, but it still happened. Patron chat is discussing whether or not it's morally correct to recommend FGO to people. It's a debate I have sometimes. I've never really been prompted to recommend FGO to anybody, like, outside of the context of the fact that we're on this fucking podcast, right? So I don't really, recommend or not recommend it. I think I would have to like, know that person's preference to make a recommendation. If somebody's really just here to read, say, for instance, somebody got in through the new Steam release of Fate Stay Night, right? Which is just pure visual novel. I would probably just be like, well, you can skip the gameplay and the rolling servants part and just read the story of FGO visual novel style. But if they got in through maybe some other Fate games, I might actually be like...
I hope that when we do shut down FGO, we do maintain, like, some FGO memorial where you can just read all the story, not necessarily worry about it.
Yeah, I was also going to say that. Somebody commented that in our chat. I hope they do, like, some other games have done and just let us do, like, a pure main story archive. Just because, like, otherwise, how are people going to know that this was some of Nasu's best writing, Let's see. I'm trying to think, were there any other themes? Because we're kind of meandered through David. Anything else you want to say about David or Tez, Lucky? We didn't really talk about Tez too much, but he's great.
Tez is a character. He's an interesting villain. It's like, it's hard to hate him, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even from the beginning, he's just like that guy. He kind of feels I guess the game kind of portrays him as, like, an arms dealer, but if this guy was gonna, like, try and sell me drugs too, I believe it. He kind of got that sleazy charisma.
Yes. I mean, like, that is kind of literally how we meet him, right? We meet him around a campfire, and he's like, hey, you dead. I can bring you back to life, but you got to give me something. And you're like, I don't got anything, buddy. And he's like, I'll take those. Which I don't think we ever actually talked about that with Cuckoo, but we probably should have brought up at some point. That was technically our fault. If she hadn't slapped our ship in half, we wouldn't have fallen out down the bajillion miles to the bottom of Mictlan.
Well, I think that goes back into the whole, kind of following your heart thing. She felt really fucking guilty about that. It's why she wasn't necessarily fighting at full strength until we say, we know it was you, Cuckoo, stop holding back.
Yeah. Cuckoo, we figured out that you were the giant green woman. Shocking, I know.
Cuckoo, also kind of bad at keeping secrets.
Well, I mean, she's, kind of the god of the Danos. That makes sense. Those guys can, see your brainwaves and shit, hear your heart.
God,
So
just thinking about the...
Makes sense.
Just thinking about the Danos, I need to see them animated. I need to see Dinos playing Zocta. I need to see Danos, pulling up guns.
They're great.
No, I love them. They are interesting as a species, and, probably the closest you're gonna get to a utopia probably ever, but also that's stagnation, baby. A perfect paradise literally cannot exist because then that means it is perfect and can no longer be improved. If something can no longer be improved, it is stagnation. And stagnation means you do not advance. And to not advance means death. Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we've mentioned this before, but not in the context of LB7, but if people don't know, the word utopia is kind of a double entendre.
Oh, really?
Because you can write it with two different vowels in Greek. One of which basically means perfect world, but the other way I think means impossible world.
Oh,
so it's the concept of utopia in philosophy has always been kind of a double entendre, right? It's not necessarily supposed to be something practical, but it is supposed to be well, what would it be like if it was perfect? What are we aiming for? And I think ultimately, this Lostbelt talking about human order, proper human history's greatest strength is the capacity to make mistakes, because that means we learn from them.
Yeah.
Which also, by the way, is a theme in the prologue opening of this year's Valentine's, funnily enough. But, I do agree that is, I think, our greatest capacity. We will do the answer that we think is the best at the time, and then we will iterate and find a better answer. Human history is full of such examples of, everybody was trying to do the best they could with what they had at the time, and then somebody comes along and is like, no, you fools, why are you hand copying these fucking manuscripts of the sum of human knowledge? Here, I have a machine that just slams the ink into the page for you. Boom, boom, boom. Printing press. Shit like that. Stuff like, no, you fool, why are you trying to talk over a phone line? That's so slow. What if I just beam the data directly through the phone lines into the other machine? Computers. That's kind of how we work, for better or worse. You may look outside your window and see a lot of mistakes being made, and hopefully somebody's learning something.
Sorry, I'm just stuck on that we taught rocks to think. Fucking wild. No,
Look at phone.
So LB7 had a lot of philosophy, I think, in it, as Nasu written chapters usually do. God damn you, Mushroom Man. How do people write this stuff? How do people come to these conclusions and make people, write so many different characters with so many different viewpoints? It's hard for me. That's hard. Ooh. But I think we got out everything we wanted about LB7 now. I think, at least I did. Do you have anything else you want to add, Omega? Any last thoughts, comments, concerns?
No, not at the moment. I'm me. I know. If somebody brought up a specific prompt about a point, I could probably talk about it for a lot longer, but just freewheeling, I think I'm good. I think we've got the energy out.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have a city, Robin, so how do you feel about that, huh? Cock's gun. Gonna have to wait a year for that Valentine's too, at least. You son of a bitch, I'll kill you. Sorry, for people not watching our Patreon chat, hey, support us on Patreon. You can view the chat even if you don't listen to the show live. Robin posted an emote that says, it's a picture of Hololive English's Gigi Muri, and it says, skill issue. I'll destroy you. That's a Neko Arc skill issue. That's funny because Neko Arc is also in fighting games. Anyway, yeah, I think I've kind of naturally petered it out. I could start a different conversation when you said, how do you write characters with so many different philosophical viewpoints? Stare at list of Reign Dramatis Personae. I could probably start that discussion, but we can save that for if we talk about Reign today. Which we can, actually. We could do that later.
We probably should.
Let's see, we've been talking
As we're probably not going to get, we're not going to, unless Dallas decides to say, fuck the Superb Owl. That's the Super Bowl, by the way, because I call it the Superb Owl because it's way funnier that way. We're probably not playing Reign this week. Yes, yeah. Owls are superb.
Yeah. And we
no shame against Dallas for wanting to watch the Super Bowl on game day because, hey, guess what? That's a once-a-year event.
Yeah. And people have been following the saga a little in Reign, because I think some of it gets in the recordings, but Dallas has been like mentioning that this is like the first football season in a long time where he's like been taking it seriously, you know, and actually like following games and shit. So, of course, you want to see the final one at the end.
Yeah.
And also maybe you want to see Kendrick Lamar, you know, kick Drake's corpse while he's down after winning 5 Grammys. He's going to perform in the Super Bowl. And he's probably going to sing Not Like Us, and it's going to be really fucking funny. Because the whole crowd's going to join in. Anyway, so yeah, like you said, I don't really hold it against him, but he's been building up to it. So yeah, no rain episode this week. I've already gotten 33 out there. But we've managed to talk, loosey-goosey, unstructured LB7 thoughts for about an hour 15. The mission clock is now an hour 46 minutes.
Solid!
And we started at like 35-ish minutes.
Okay, cool. Perfect.
Yeah.
Then I guess you want to do Valentine first impressions then?
Yeah, I think that's a good segue since we talked a little bit about I mentioned, the prologue just now.
Yeah. So, like I said, no hard taken notes, but we're doing Pup Johanna's Valentine this year. She has shown up. She has gone to a minute singularity. Nothing really weird was going on there. Just the mage dude wanted to cast a silly wish, apparently. Johanna said, no, intercepted it, but now it has to grant her wish, which is weird because she is a ruler, and rulers intrinsically do not have a wish for the Grail. So an angel and devil, Red, Angra, Manu, and Karen, decide to pull one out of her and grant it anyway, which has resulted in her having a giant-ass statue in town, everyone remembering her, and being really, really cringe. This has socially murdered Johanna in several ways, and this is the first time I have ever seen someone actually die from cringe. It's a little wild.
Once again, I like we've said before, I feel like they did her dirty by placing her in this event because like Johanna's so cool, guys, and like she's a great character because she can do this pivot from like, yes, I am the female pope. I'm practically a saint. I, have all the wisdom of Athens, and all this other stuff attributed to her. And then also you cut to a scene where like I love how they did this with the type. Like, we do a scene transition to an inn, and you just see Johanna yelling in small case font, and I'm like, she's yelling into the pillow, isn't she? And Mash says, like we're doing a stage play. So Pope Johanna is yelling into a pillow right now. And I just imagine the whole crew, like, crowded around the bed, like, patting her on the back.
Actually, I think if I understand the sound effects right, I think she's also, like, kicking her legs.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's also in my mental image. Yeah, no, like, it's just... And that's the great juxtaposition of Type Moon writing, where this character can go from being like so serious, so earnest, so cool under pressure, to also like just when the guy says "lovey-dovey Johanna," she's just like and like doubles over. Oh, is your friend quite all right? Don't worry about her. She's just tired.
She went from girl boss to girl fairy in 0.2 seconds, baby.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, who wouldn't like if I was Johanna and suddenly saw a impossible statue of myself, I would be like, oh no, man, this shit ain't gonna fly. Yeah. But yes, Lucky also raised a very important point. The reason why we want to stop this random mage from making a wish is because Johanna says, hey, this Grail, it's been fuckled.
Yes. And
then when she gets sucked into the Grail time, we can see it's been fuckled because Agra and Karen are in there being little gremlins together. So that's the kind of position we're in. There's horrible chains, binding the statue, which are a manifestation of protecting it. So there's going to be 4 heroes, I think they said, we're going to have to defeat.
No, it's going to be interesting. We only got one section out, so there's not a lot to do. But the writing has been good so far, I want to say. I don't think it's going to be like some amazing story, but I think it'll give us some more characterization on Johanna that we got after Trom, which I think is good. But unfortunately, I don't think there's much more to say there. I know I have done all my ladies' chocolates. I know, Omega, you said you were getting your grind on earlier, so you probably don't have as many.
I haven't actually, because I would want to sit down and listen to them. I haven't actually fired off any of my Valentines, except for the first couple scenes. Did spend my lock-ons, though. I put my lock... You said you put yours on Summer Ibuki. I did as well. It is dangerous. It's dangerous as fuck. Yeah, I mean, the logic is pretty sound. You get free NP for doing the Blessed Lock-On and Extra Bond, and she is probably mechanically my best new female 5-star this year. So I was like, seems like an obvious choice, and I said this, I think, off mic, but no, her Valentine scene is great because it's just Aoi Yuki gets to josh around in the booth, for like
drunk.
5 minutes.
It's great. Her lines are so great.
Being drunk, but also being serious. And then I just love how, I don't know if it's because she's Summer or what, but like Ibuki just being like, wait, am I drunk? What am I doing right now? Like her ability to pivot to, wait a minute, am I fucking with you? What's going on here? And I want to be like, Ibuki, don't you know? Don't you know what's going on with you? But it's great. At some point during the scene, you could just start screaming for Kentoki to help you.
Well, unfortunately, your only option is to scream and for Kentoki to help you. There is no option to accept your fate, which I curse.
Well, I mean, if you accepted your fate, I think that would turn into yet another infamous Valentine's bad end.
I make my choice.
There's a couple of there out there. I also do appreciate, it's funny that we picked it for mechanical reasons, but this is the Valentine scene where they do finally talk about, the master not drinking still. And basically just kind of go down to like, yeah, you're probably not a minor anymore. You're probably of age, but also time's so fucked up right now. And I think Ibuki phrases it as just, you're earnest, you're not gonna start drinking and doing drugs until you get this shit resolved, which I'm like, fair decision.
Yeah, no, don't hate it.
And it's I'm glad. Well, I think it's because they don't actually want the Earth to have been, sealed for like 5 years. That's gonna make the conclusion of this arc even harder to explain. So it says here, for 5 years, instead of repairing the bleaching of Earth, you had 5 summers? Listen, man, it was hard. Finding those trees, tough. But yeah, it's
I'm sorry, it's like, don't you see here in my contract I'm supposed to get so many days off? Vacation, baby.
Well, you see, my vacation years don't carry over, and sick days don't carry over every year, so I had to take them every year. I had to take the time off. Otherwise, I'd lose them. I feel like at some point when we try, it's like if the clock tower asks about Halloween, we're just gonna be like, we don't talk about Halloween, okay, man?
You don't talk about Halloween.
Just don't start that shit. Don't start none. There won't be none. But yeah, so Ibuki's is pretty good, like it a lot. And then for my blue one, I had to think about it a little, but I did decide to do what some other people did and went with Charlie, which was pretty good. Yeah, lighthearted, but maybe a little more serious than some other notes, but it's pretty nice. Like it just starts with him thinking about the blue sky, and so you just go out on a little 2-person jaunt to find some sky to stare at. It's raining, of course. Oof. So you gotta go hide in a cave and have a little powwow. And the actual first of all, Charlemagne talks about how absurd Astolfo's returns are and chocolates and stuff. Just being like, yeah, I'm as the emperor, I've obviously got to keep it to the level of my subordinates. I bet they went crazy, huh? But like the ultimate form of his gift is just a clasped hand. So it's like it's a good scene. It reads good. So I'll be interested to fire up a couple more. And I've set up my support setups. I've dug some old chocolates out of there, and so we'll see what we get. So yeah, like I said, early first impressions literally came out last night technically because of maintenance. So still early, but good start, and we'll keep checking in.
Yeah, I haven't spent my blue one yet because I'm not quite sure. Honestly, I might save it for maybe a farmer later because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get enough regular lock-on chocos that I'll be able to get them all. So
that's fair.
Yeah, because actually, how many gifts do I need to give out here? Hang on, let me double check here. Lucky was trying to think about a support setup because I still actually haven't set it up. If you want to use my fucking MP5 Summer Ibuki, who's gonna have start with 300% fucking charge, she's in my all slot.
That's a good one.
Yep.
I actually decided to exercise the fact that we can keep 3 sets, so I have a support setup for, I guess, just showing off called Waifus.
What the fuck? Sorry, I just went to the event store. The statue is speaking to me.
Oh, right. Yes, sorry. I saw that earlier. Yeah, we should talk about that. No, you, and I think one of her lines is she's like, what, you think statues can't talk and express emotions? Yeah, no. So sometimes the shopkeeper you get, is, the statue. Also glad to see that. So like I said, I have a support setup, like I said, that's just titled in my notes, like waifu, that has all my favorite ladies in each class slot.
4, 5, 6, yeah. I only got 6.
Sorry.
I only got 6 dudes. So, and like I said, I've already done all my ladies, and I'm at 300k, so I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have a fuck ton of unused chocolate by the end of this. That's gonna be a lot of QP.
7, 8 males, and then not held ladies. 2, 3, 4.
But I am excited to see what happens in JP Valentine's. I think the world was shook a little bit when it was Andromeda and her fucking design. Not actually entirely sure how the event went. I think I seen.
I feel like people liked it, but it's always hard to tell with the translation. But her design was great, yeah.
Like I said, I hear a lot of people screaming for Omi-san because
FGO and other games do this occasionally, but like Omi's, it's crazy to me that like, I mean, Bishone was cool, but like Omi-san blew the fuck up, and like people really liked her design, and it just kept coming, you know, like. So
I do not disagree with them one moment. I would be very happy if Omi-san was the next Valentine, but I don't know if they planned it that way. I'm gonna be real.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. Usually when we do these previews, the gap is a little longer. Oh, it is still going? Okay, it's not over yet. I guess the farming doesn't end there. Actually, yes. If it is authors, Lacusta wrote a manual and had a school for discussing how to make poisons.
Oh, is it writers? Huh.
I mean, it's... Oh, yeah, they're still going the art, yes. Sorry. Yeah, because it's... I don't know if Nikich did any writing, but might have. But definitely Sei Murasaki, obviously. And at least in universe, you know, Hime is known for her doujin productions. I don't know what, like, because she's not out yet, I don't know what, like, if Lacusta showed up in event backgrounds, what her personality is like. But yeah, no. I was going to draw the comparison actually, since we're talking about, you know, Johanna and Trom. Konstantinos was like teased very mildly in White Day, but he didn't hit until the Trom release, which was quite a bit later.
Well, I'll put on the other foot. We had Medusa Saber show up in Order to Call 1, and then she had an event like a month later. 2 months?
Yeah, it was a month or two. So, like, the gaps are not super long. I don't know if, like, they do it literally the next event, because that would be this time frame. But it usually is a short turnaround, if they were planned to be summonable at all. Okay, NPC Jail is vast, and there have been some very good designs in it, but I feel like I want to be like, if somebody in the Type Moon art team had Omi-san drawn this way and included in the story in such a way, and they weren't, like, planning on her being a summonable unit, I just want to, like, shake them. Like, how could you not realize what you're working with here?
Yeah, no.
And also, like I said, you know, her name is an alias, right? She, you know, she's just Omi-san, just Mrs. Snake, like, or the Mrs. I feel like usually they do that when they're being cute about a servant identity. Like, a lot of the people in like, Guda Guda NPC jail, we know exactly who they are. They're people from, you know, one of the two periods that Guda Guda is about, and just, they're in the backlog because there's so many of them. So, I don't know. I'd love to see it. It would... I mean, you know, I say these things sometimes. I said that, you know, them releasing Nido Alter a month early or, like, 2 weeks early would be unprecedented. And they did it anyway. So, like, yes, it would be unprecedented for them to drop Omi-san, I think, as the Valentine servant at literally the next event after she premiered. But that's not the craziest thing that's ever happened, you know?
Honestly, like, the more I think about it, we know we're getting to the end of part 2, and it has been said that even if they do plan to, like, maybe continue on the story elsewhere, they need a fucking break. Everyone's getting fucking burnt out.
Yeah.
So I don't think they'll necessarily be wanting to add things that they might not be able to follow up on at some point, like with like specific characters.
God, sorry, I'm just imagining, like, because Takeuchi's talked about, like, the plans they have to, like, pull at all the stops. I'm just imagining, like, we'll get a new Guda Guda event this year, and it's just gonna be like the weekly summon campaign banners, but it's just a week of, like, 7 banners of all the fucking Guda Guda NPCs we don't have. That probably won't happen because that would require a lot of work, but still.
I personally think they should pull something like they did that one anniversary long ago when they released a bunch of bronzes and a couple silvers all at once. We've only done that once.
Yeah. Obviously, that was, you know, 7 guys for, like, 7 characters who were going to be peppered throughout the Lostbelts.
Yeah.
Though, obviously, I feel like they didn't know exactly what they were planning on doing with those characters. But, yeah, maybe this anniversary we'll get another wave of, like, silvers and bronzes. I mean, they did, our previous anniversary for us, they did add Slid Jufu in there. But there's still some room for some lower rarity guys, and I think there are probably like new side characters appearing in Ordeal Calls, or God forbid, if they're actually releasing all the servants that are appearing in Ordeal Calls. Like we said, NPC jail's big. Get them out of there. Hell, fucking.
I'm gonna tell you right.
Sorry to cut you off. I just remembered though. Black Bart was an early preview, right? That was I forget what it was exactly called, but like the movie film event with Jolter. He showed up as a random mysterious amnesiac NPC.
Oh god, that was right.
Like
I forgot about that.
They sneak up on us sometimes. Okay.
I was going to say something, and I totally forgot what it was.
Sorry, that's my bad. I know. I absolutely cut you off. It's because I had my own explosive.
Yeah, I know. You had a thing. I'm more mad that I can't remember what I was about to talk about. Oh, I remember now. Like, speaking of NPC jail, there's something that fucking weirds me out slightly, is that in both Van Gogh's and Hokusai's interludes, there's children in there, and they seem a little off and weird, and have like full ass designed NPC and full NPC sprites. I'm just all like, like I am slightly wondering if this is building up to something. I know we're probably not going to have a Foreigner Ordeal Call, but we might still have a Foreigner Ordeal Call or some sort of Foreigner event.
Yeah, I could see them making it yet another make it Imaginary Scramble 2 or some shit.
Ooh, Typhon would probably be a good Valentine.
Typhon, yeah, that would be that actually would be a female character that was introduced quite a while ago who hasn't made it in yet and is in demand. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
I put my prediction down as that being a little more likely than Omi-san right away, but I mean, I know we've had several events that are technically Foreigner themed, but I don't think we've had one quite the way that we're thinking, right? Like, we talked Imaginary Scramble.
Like, we talked about this, like, they said it was supposed to be 3, no 4. And we got our 4 lined up. I don't know if they're gonna give us the bamboozling. It's actually 5! But I feel like they've, like, with a couple of their interludes, they're setting up something weird there. But I don't know if it's gonna be an Ordeal Call thing, because, like I said, it was never actually mentioned, and I don't actually supposed to think we're supposed to understand foreigners. I think that's their point.
Yeah. Hell, even, one of Abigail's interludes is kind of a like a follow-up to the Salem story, because Salem's Abigail, comes to visit us through time and space, because she's technically out there with the mysterious time-traveling gentleman. Definitely not H.P. Lovecraft's self-insert character. So there are these open-ended questions, but also, like you said, I don't know if we need a story to explain how foreigners work, because they are supposed to be inexplicable. The rules as established like early in Salem by, I think it's Metio who wrote Salem and a couple of the other foreigner focused events, is that like the evil gods of the abyss, as they are originally called, but obviously the outer gods, the old ones, are like supposed to be guys from outside our universe, don't operate by our physical parameters, are completely inexplicable. They are like true demons, which obviously, as we know from the conversation about angel and demon artifacts in the clock tower, are also supposed to be, truly unknowable outside context problems. And the outer gods are just one of those things. But also, it's like, sometimes I feel like not all the writers are all synced up on stuff. I think that like the FGO, the Type Moon fandom wiki has like Safar classed as like a foreigner. But I assume they just did that because that's the only thing that makes sense. Not that she actually has like a proper class container. Mm-hmm. Because obviously Extella super predates foreigners being introduced to the game. But also, yes, of course Safar would be as the white giant, she would be a foreigner. That's perfect. That's exactly what the Umbral Star is.
So clearly we're gonna get our fucking. It's not gonna be an Ordeal Call, but it's just gonna be another big event where we actually have to deal with some fucking Safar subplot, and we have to summon a bunch of foreigners to go against it because you must stare back into the abyss or some shit. I don't know.
We finally get the Extella collab. Altera Larva Welfare 5-star Carl de Gross. Explain that shit to me, DJ.
Actually, yeah, that's right. We are coming up on JP collab time.
It's gonna be Tsukihime this time, right? Like I feel like it's gotta be. I don't know because they did Phantasmoon at Christmas.
Yeah, no, like if we think about it, we already got Ark, we already got Space Seal. They actually explained why they had to be a Servantverse Seal, and we got Phantasmoon.
Which,
like,
by the way, we do want to say, talking about Nasu interviews, Nasu explicitly said he thought Phantasmian would take a new collab or a full collab.
It kind of was a little bit of a collab.
Yeah, it was a collab with the funny parts of Tsukihime.
Yeah, but like, yeah, no. So like, everyone's like, it's either got to be Strange Fake or Extella, unless they're really, really gonna dig out and pull something out of their ass.
I mean, I think that means that our literal only options left for big fate hitters, unless we're gonna dig out the Ragnarok story, which it could. I mean, they did. Shit, I forgot what the name of the work Arise is from. Requiem. They did Requiem with like 2 light novel volumes published, and I don't know if they've published any more. At least Case Files, I think, was mostly done because the anime was coming out. But it's got to be either Strange Fake or Prototype for the Golden Week collab. Strange Fake is probably the best guess because that will be about when the anime's coming out. Who would the fucking headliners be in Strange Fake?
I mean,
Berserker Jack the Ripper. Not that I don't even know how they're going to do that as a servant, by the way. Just for character design.
They couldn't do Berserker Jack the Ripper, as Berserker Jack the Ripper's form is formless. Kind of same with the writer, and I don't know if they want to necessarily get into the whole split about true/fake. So it could be I can't remember her name.
What Franzeska and Fake Assassin, who literally doesn't have a name.
Yeah, Franzeska really isn't a servant though, actually, because Franzeska is
she's the master. It would be actual Prelati, Francois Prelati.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, no, you're right. I forgot about the great author, Dumas. He's
Dumas.
great. He should probably be like a 2-star like all the other authors in Fate, though. Maybe make him as like a FP servant release, like Nobukatsu.
That'd be pretty good.
But yeah, so like I genuinely don't know what the headliners and the banners are. Hippolyta probably does work, but she's not even going to be she's probably not going to be in the core of the anime they cover because she's true writer.
Yeah, no, like I don't think they want to necessarily like start pulling out the quote unquote true, because then by the way we're going to have to deal with second Ishtar.
A new Ishtar, Observer, all the other weird guys. I mean, we could do Alcides, like give Herc the 5-star treatment. That's also a guy, though, that just, like, I don't even know how you fucking compress all the bullshit he has going on into a playable unit. He, Super Herc has a noble phantasm for each of the 12 labors, as opposed to the way God Hand works, where he has 12 lives. It's like, what if he had 12 different magical bullshit powers? So, yeah, I don't know. Let us know your thoughts on the collab in the comments below.
Yeah, for my big ones, I probably have to go with Typhon or Omi-san for Valentine's, but Violent would not be amiss either. I just do think it'd probably be weird to bring out the last of a Sakura 5 and not some sort of Sakura related event. That's been the pattern so far. So we'll see. We will see. By this time next week, we should know.
Yes. Well, if they aren't willing to show NP details because the event's not going to start for a few days, we should at the very least have a picture.
Yes. All right, but I think that is our thoughts on Valentine's. More next week.
Yep.
So I think our next thing would be so you didn't get that 5-star.
Yeah, this is another one that's talking about stuff that's been put off because the Lostbelt episodes were so long. And like discuss this point that talking about Tenochtitlan, aka Talak, aka Huitzilopochtli, like when we literally hadn't gotten to that step of our recap about her true name reveal, it was a little tough. So people were asking about it, so I did put it in the notes because I knew we would have a semi-shorter show, though we are already over 2 hours.
Thanks, Vaffin.
Yeah. I mean, they got us... I want to make the syndrome joke about caught me monologuing, but they got us speculating,
Mm-hmm.
But it seemed like finally the right time to do it, so, let's briefly recap, quote-unquote, Talalak, and, kind of talk about her. So she's a new pretender. She's permanent. They definitely went a little harder on pretenders in the 4-star slot than they have some of the other new extra classes, because we've already got 3 of them and have a couple more coming. But in that position, Tenno is kind of on the higher HP, lower attack side. She might, I have to double check against some future units, but she might have the highest HP out of all the 4-star pretenders. But her her card deck is Quick, Arts, Buster. Good hits, 4 quicks, 3 arts, and average NP gain. arguably even a little on the high side of average. It's 0.58. So I would say pretty normal functional stats you would expect out of a 4-star with this deck in this day and age. Her NP is AoE quick. I forgot to check the hit count, but I'm sure it's fine. So she gives herself 20% NP gain on water first, I believe for multiple turns, but only if you're on the water side field. After the NP hits, it gives the whole party 20% NP damage up for 3 turns. And also its overcharge effect is to give herself NP damage first for 1 turn. So this does mean if you can get her to loop, those numbers are going to start getting pretty crunk. Because on the back half, she gives herself and everybody 20% for 3 turns, and on the front half, she gives herself 20 to 40% based on overcharge. So despite, again, being on the lower attack side, she will hit pretty hard. Her first skill is a 20 to 30% battery for self instantly, a 5 to 10% NP per turn for 3 turns, and then also makes it a water field for 3 turns.
Whoa.
So just solves her own problem. Also, decent battery and charge per turn is good. Her second skill is the annoying one from those boss fights. First of all, it's her charisma plus, basically, so the whole party gets 10 to 20% attack up and crit up for 3 turn. Gets sure hit for 3 turns for the whole party. Also, enemy guts, gone. Removed. If your enemy loses a guts, she has a 500% chance, so this gets through everything but debuff immunity, to give them 30 to 50% defense down for, I think, 3 turns.
Oh, Jesus.
So, technically it's her Huitzli-Pochli skill, but yeah, in this form skill too, Tenno just says, fuck your guts, also, double fuck you for having guts. For daring to guts in the first place, get wrecked. I hate you, die. And then she pours hot lava on you, just like an early 2010s Minecraft Let's Play. And then her final skill has even more to go, so it's 20 to 30% arts quick and crit up on self for 3. Pretty normal bicolored steroids. In case you can't tell, she's supposed to be, hybrid quick arts. But also it gives the whole squad, including herself, a 1k to 2k damage cut 3 times 3 turns. So very well spread on a servant in terms of capability. So for passives, she's got Territory Creation EX, so those arts cards, like I said, really slamming. She does have Divinity A+, so she has a free damage plus. She has a unique passive that she always does 20% crit up on water fields, period. Which basically means that her first skill is secretly a 20% crit up on self for 3 turns, but also you might get it other times. And also a very fun, unique passive where, while she's on the field, other party members get 8% arts up. So she already has Territory Creation EX, so she does like 12% extra arts herself, but she also gives the equivalent of like a B-rank Territory Creation to the whole team.
Cool.
Yeah, so very fun, very well-rounded skill set. So obviously, she's got a great hybrid for arts, quick, and crit. She's got, critical follow-up for herself and the squad. She has a quick NP, so she will be generating stars, but she also does arts to help that loop out. Her NP should be supremely loopable. It gives herself NP gain if you're on water, which obviously your water is tied. Making the field water is tied to one of her batteries, so presumably you're going to push that big button, so she's going to get NP gain back, But also great team support, does team-wide attack up and crit up and sure hit, and also team-wide defense cut. So, great stall potential. Strip bad guy buffs and give your team, 2k damage cut 3 times. Very solid numbers here. She doesn't really, other than the damage cut, she doesn't really have hard defenses herself, so, she can get crashed out by just bad matchups, enemies doing huge damage, but definitely has a lot of broad potential. Honestly, looking back at this, and I'm sure I read these stats, when she first came out, I think this is part of the reason why I'm she's, I'm surprised she's not limited. I'm like, she's not? Because, these are, for a 4-star pretender who's permanent, these are real good. She's a real good AoE counterpart to Hephaestion's single target shit. And they both do a little bit of arts, so they go together, I think. So yeah, great potential for story fights. Should be an excellent addition to any team. Huge pain in my ass as a boss. I am looking at these skills, and I'm like, you couldn't have rearranged these so that like she did maybe did the damage cut as a boss. I can get over 2k damage cut. Steal my guts, give me defense down. That shit's rough, man. Sorry, especially when it's Nito and Nemo, who their only defenses are a guts. Brutal. But yeah, she's very fun. I hope to roll her myself in the future, and she does have a summer variant coming up. And I think now that I actually like understand her story and her skill names like fully, I understand why she shows up as a summer and as a moon cancer. It's because she's from the Lake of the Moon.
Mm-hmm.
Just good little notes. But yeah, so that means that that we're now entering for the first time in a long time the What's Up area.
Yay!
Where I jotted down a few quick things to talk about among any other things we want to be talking about. Anything jump out to you right away, Lucky?
As I am still like struggling with my vintage story, I think I have too many mods on my thing. It's slowing down here and there. Let's talk about vintage story.
Yeah, I also experienced some slowdown, but yeah. So we've alluded to vintage story often on streams and podcasts for like I want to say a couple weeks now. Last week even streamed it instead of 14. That's how fucking hype we were.
Yeah.
So first of all, watch the stream. Anyway, go watch it. You can just see it with your own eyes. But what's the way we've been pitching it? So vintage story is imagine Minecraft, but it's a post-apocalyptic to the late medieval, early Renaissance period game.
Yeah.
So, and maybe even a little below, further. We didn't really touch on that, but like you're playing Minecraft, but it's way more niche freak. I say affectionately as a niche freak. We described it on stream and even showed some of it, but like it's Minecraft, but you don't automatically like get a block out of every block you punch down. You want to chop down a tree, you need an axe. You can't mine stone without a metal pickaxe, kind of a thing.
There are no stone pickaxes.
Yeah. If you want to make stone tools, you have to nap them yourself out of flint by laying a piece of flint on the ground and carving out the little voxels to make it into the shape of the tool you want.
Yeah. Making metal tools is not just, combining ingots. You either have to pour them into a mold or get an anvil out and literally use a hammer and beat them into shape.
Yeah. You have no inventory space until you craft it yourself. You just have access to your hotbar until you start making reed baskets and primitive backpacks. All kinds of stuff like that. And by default, the game has seasons. So like when it's winter, you can't grow crops for free. All kinds of shit like that. So
it's a lot of survival. Like you have to preserve food, you have to hunt animals down, animals will hunt you. I have been killed by so many wolves and so many bears, and surprisingly a moose more than once. Moose are scary. I've also been killed by boars, but that's just more embarrassing than anything really else. Okay, I must be using too many fucking mods because I keep getting a hang up here and there.
Yeah, I experienced a few in my single player with all our mods installed.
Yeah, I think I might have to go
trim
get
stuff
out and dial back some of my mods. I don't know which ones, though. Which mods can I live without?
But yeah, so we've been playing with a multiplayer server because they're not on Steam. Because as you would expect from the guys who made this game, the devs seem like they're a little particular about stuff. They've kind of talked about how they don't want to like, do revenue sharing and kind of like play the whole Steam review game with Steam.
Well, that's probably why I haven't heard of this game earlier, because apparently this game's been out for like 7 years.
Yeah, they started as a Minecraft mod and forked into their own version of the engine at some point and have been standalone for a while. They're technically still in early access, but it's a game that is a labor of love clearly for the devs, but also feels like a labor of love as a player.
Mm-hmm.
Because on the one hand, yes, some of you are going to be listening at home and you've heard me describe and Lucky describe, you have to, crucible forge your own metal tools by pouring them into molds and waiting for them to cool down. You have to preserve all your food or it rots. You have to, carve your own, nap your own flint knives and axes to do anything. And be like, I don't know, man. That sounds like a pain in the ass. And it is. It is a pain in the ass. But also, there's something about it that, like, really scratches that itch of the survival crafting, like, progression. Because, obviously, in default Minecraft, you do progress. You build a stone pickaxe. Actually, you can build a wooden pickaxe, and then you can build a stone pickaxe, and then you can build an iron pickaxe, and, like, go up in levels, right? They each get more durable, they can mine better materials, etc., etc. And so on and so forth with other materials. But also, like we said, it's a very straightforward, cartoonified form of progression. You start with wooden everything. You can make, wooden swords and wooden picks and stuff, too. But what you do in Vintage Story is like, no. When you are progressing, you are literally rediscovering basic human technology. Like, you go from whittling rocks to, like, building pit kilns in the ground and firing clay objects that you shape by hand, to, like we said, turning those into molds that you then pour metal, etc., etc. Like, building materials-wise, you can start with, like, you know, quartered logs and piles of sticks, and then eventually start, you know, assembling cobblestone with, like, a little bit of clay for mortar and loose stones, or even mud brick, something we never really fucked with ourselves, to, like, once you make a saw, you can, like, make planks and stuff. And it's... Yeah, planks and stuff. It just... When you hit a new level of tech, whether that's, like, you figure out how to, like, you know, make a cook pot and cook a full meal, or, you know, make a metal tool with a mold, or just... what are some of the other, like, tech leaps we've gotten? Like...
Leather?
Yeah, figuring out how to tan leather. You know, you went through a whole process of, like, getting enough berries growing to get juice, to make a juice press, and then fermenting that shit into wine.
Yeah.
Like, just...
Like, you are going through a tech tree in the most organic way possible.
Yes, there are literal tiers. Like, if you look at a piece of rock, it'll tell you what tier of tool you need to break it, or same with logs, right? So there's
Also,
a mechanical tier list, but...
Yeah. But it's like they describe things as going like you're in the Stone Age, early Copper Age, late Copper Age, Bronze Age, you know, like all the way up to the Steel Age. And it's interesting. And not only that, like, it's actually fantastic. They actually use geological strata in the game, so you can usually find, like, only specific things in specific rocks. Like, unlike in Minecraft, you can't just, you know, just dig into the ground and start finding what you need. You have to be in the right location to find it. So, like, the game is a bit of a pain in the ass, but it's an engaging pain in the ass, which I think is important.
Yeah, like everything, like we said, everything feels so organic and natural, and when you finally get it to click, you're like, I've done it, you know? Whether that's just simple bullshit like, all right, I've, you know, reverse engineered a crate to store all my stuff in, to, like, you know, we've been playing for weeks, shit like, it took, like Axe in our first multiplayer server, and probably in the next one is our, you know, ended up being our blacksmith, took responsibility for figuring out metal tools and hammer forging and stuff, and just, like, you know, I mean, the fanfare was a little minimalized at the time, but at some point he just handed me a bronze pickaxe, and I was like, oh, you've done this? You've actually made it? Like, it took me a while to realize. As a separate thing, this is something that we should probably be better about, but I think Axe takes for granted with the rest of us, is just like, no, I don't actually read my hover tooltips when something appears in my hotbar. It took me a second to realize, because I didn't like mouse over it right away. Because, you know, it's still Minecraft coded, so, like, you don't, you know, get there. And Robert asking, is there an indicator to where you are? I mean, there is a world map, and you can set your own waypoints for stuff, but in terms of tech, no. It's kind of like one of those games where, obviously, you can look up everything in the guidebook, including recipes and stuff all the time, but I feel like it's a game where you kind of don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
You just kind of, like, stumble into, like, oh, shit, can we, you know, raise animals? How do we do that? Oh, we need planks to make a trough to feed them, which gets them to, you know, start domesticating themselves. How do we do that? Planks, saw. What do they eat? You know, like, you just kind of eyeball it, and sometimes the guidebook is not as helpful or explicit as it could be. There's a little bit of trial and error involved.
I personally like the trial and error.
Well, and that's what I was about to say, you know. Like you said earlier, I think that's that kind of, like, engaging sort of frustrating. Sometimes it is frustrating to be like, I don't know what I'm missing. But when you know, earlier, hey, we learned from our mistakes. When you get it to click, you're like, damn, that's neat. Some stuff is still very video gamey. I'm gonna relate the story of, like, Loth communicated to you that, like, oh yeah, you can build a roof of glacier ice, and that counts as a greenhouse mechanically. And we were just absolutely bamboozled for a couple of seconds. But no, it works. Should it work? Fuck no. That's not how permafrost works. But that's how the video game is coded, so it gives you kind of a funny alternative if you want to build a greenhouse before you get to the fucking smelting quartz age, which does actually, by the way, take a lot of work to make
You
glass.
just gotta get to the top of a mountain, which is its own,
its own bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh, and also we should say there is, like, a hell of a lot of lore we've barely touched, but, like, there's a storyline about, like, you know, the scrap dimension and the time crashes and stuff, and in general, this mostly manifests in the story of if it's night, or if you see rifts to the dimension of gears show up. Monsters just appear in darkness, so deep underground or at night. Sometimes there are portals that open that just puke them up, and they're just little guys. I like to call them weird, funny names like Scregory, Jimothy, Timotheus. But they're just weird little gray guys who come out to punch you in the shins and throw rocks at your face.
They throw a lot of rocks. And they really liked my house.
Yeah, I don't know what specifically it was about your house arrangement. Sometimes weirder versions of them. There are Shivers, who are like horrible Demogorgon Spider-Men. And there are Bowtorn, who have bows for a face.
And really good aim.
Yeah, they're also twice as tall as a man, I think. They're hunching a little. So, like, shit's a little fucked up. Sometimes if you're depending on your server settings, temporal storms can happen where your screen gets real fucked up and guys can just kind of spawn. So, like, the game gives you, like, it gives you more than just the Minecraft monster spawn at night reason to be like, hey, you need a house, a base, a safe place to work. Because specifically, when a temporal storm happens, you need a self-contained, well-lit place to hide out, or just demons shall appear upon you and sentence you to death.
They like to sentence you to death.
I think we dodged the first couple of temporal storms by just getting on our rafts and hiding on the ocean where the enemies just fall in.
I couldn't get on a raft, so I was just sitting on the bottom of the ocean floor waiting things for past and swimming up for air like every minute or so.
Like Dad, yeah. No, like it's tough, but it's just silly enough that you kind of like go with it. And obviously, like you said, also the creatures of nature are the true demons. Like wild boars are enough of a challenge when you're fucking, naked and making just flintstone tools. Is like tough. Wolves are like true apex predators. If you've ever wondered why humans have so many stories about wolves fucking their shit up, it's because wolves are the kindred of Satan and will mess your day up. They like to fucking velociraptor out of the darkness and kill you in like 2 hits.
Usually 3 hits if you have armor, but no, they get you. They get you good.
Yeah, I think it was 2 hits when we had no armor at all, and like all of our clothing was ruined from being killed by demons and boars.
Demon boars.
And obviously, like you said, there are tougher guys who are a little more nonchalant. Like mooses are like damage tier 2, but I don't think they go super aggro until you get in their space.
I just want to point this out to you, Omega. I'm here writing my world name. You said moose, so my world name became Lonely Mooses.
Perfect. No notes. So yeah, no. It's a lot of fun. It's a little bit of heartache, and we're just having so much fun with it. Basically, I think we should say we've completed a year 1 run.
Yep.
We started a server kind of a little sight unseen. A couple of us, booted up single player games to kind of experiment with world gen and like do basic tutorial stuff. Some of us did not, but we all just kind of like eyeballed our settings and figured some stuff out, and it was fun, and we kind of were catching our stride in some areas, but also just like realized a lot of our limitations. I think you were correct, Lucky, in something you said the other night, which really stuck with me, is like, we didn't really account for the fact that, like, if we're building a village for, the 5 of us in the Cabal who have the game, that means we need basically 5x the resources for anything.
Yeah.
Like, not everybody needs to own a pickaxe all the time, but it would be nice if we could all have access to pickaxes to, like, dig up stone and shit, have access to saws to make planks and other constructs. So, like, everything you would need for single-player progression got multiplied by 5, and just the resources we started with, which were pretty average, I think, for the game's normal curve, were, like, not enough. We played this game for an in-game year, with Lucky asked for the seasons to be made slightly longer than normal. It was, 12 in-game days was what we picked?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, like, 12 or 16 hours of real time? 8 hours of real time?
Well, I do know 30 days is 24 hours. I know that because I'm going to ask us to extend the seasons even further.
Yeah, so that should be like, if they were 12-ish, that would be closer to like 12 to 8 hours. But like,
yeah.
We ran all the way to like, we started in like March or something. We're ending it and reconfiguring the server map in January. And we still were like having problems with stuff. Yeah, like feeding everybody was like, a lot of time was built into setting up meal production and stuff and figuring it all out. And a lot of times, for months at a time, some of us were just, feeding ourselves off the fat of the land, just grabbing bushes and shit, wild mushrooms. We never, like, cracked metal armor production because just the scale of it was such a pain in the ass. Like, I literally Axe, like I said, is our blacksmith, and he counted up all the stuff and said, man, I gotta wrap this production. And I'm like, okay, hold on. I see what Axe was going for. Like, he hadn't logged into the server yet. Let me wrap my brain around this and try and test how much of a pain in the ass it'd be. And I was like, yeah, no. Each one of these molds produces 1 unit of lamellae plates. You're gonna need 8 of those, I think, to make 1 chest piece for one of us, plus 2 leather.
Mm-hmm.
And that's 8 molds worth. So it's like, okay, so 1, we need a shitload of copper, which I think we did actually have enough copper to work with that at the end, but it was still gonna be slow going. And then 2, that means you need to run that mold like 8 fucking times for 1 chest piece. So it's just like we learned that we need to like juice up our resource levels. We literally never found tin. We played the game for a year. Literally never found a good tin deposit. Never found tin.
And this is what you guys exploring.
We were, I want to say, all throughout the winter months that we got to, and even most of fall, we were hunting. At some points, we had 3 or 4 people outside the village looking for good resources, and we never found a good deposit of tin. I think we found almost everything else that was at our tech level. Like, we got some good silver and gold sources. We did find bismuth. We found a decent amount of zinc. Yeah, we never got to iron because we never got far enough into we never fully entered the Bronze Age where we could like reliably hammer out bronze tools to gather like black coal and iron. But like I said, we were hunting. I was certainly hunting tin because that's the easiest way to make normal vanilla bronze is just copper tin. Rub them together. And yes, no, the game has like realistic alloying. Yeah, except unlike RuneScape, you can't just, or at least we didn't just find the tin colored rocks on the ground. Copper does actually work that way, but the tin was very deep. So we've been talking amongst the crew about what we want our world gen settings to be for V2. Stress tested our mod list today. Went pretty well. And probably after the show ends while I'm working on the edit, we'll finalize our settings so we can start Village 2 tomorrow. And that'll be lots of fun. Or it won't, or we'll all die.
We'll probably die. There will probably be a lot of death.
The Village 2. But yes, this game is Vintage Story. Thank you, Robin. That's such a fast loop on that GIF. Yeah, anything else you want to say about Vintage Story in general? Because we've been so in the Vintage Story hole.
No, it's fun, and like I said, there's a robust modding community. Because that's the thing, we did our year 1 village like completely vanilla. We saw everything that there was to do. Well, we didn't see anything except we didn't get into steel production or in some of the weird signs they have there. But we got into like the core gameplay loop and just vanilla and saw where things were and how we want to do. So we're definitely doing things like we're probably going to up the amounts of global resources, maybe change how much ocean there is, things of that nature, like maybe affect our hunger rate, how fast things grow or spoil, all that sort of thing. And we got a bunch of mods to do things, like things to overhaul combat and add more weapons and armor. Got things to add alchemy, increase our beekeeping, increase our culinary. And so, like, our next playthrough is going to have, like, a lot more. And I think we're going to be a lot more busy in-game. I just hope that we can somehow unify our building code so not everything just looks like it was just slapped together down by a fucking 3-year-old who doesn't understands what they're doing. Man, we should have taken a picture of the village before we delete it, just so we can show people.
You can see some of it on stream, but, like, it was a very weird state where, like, our first couple buildings were just... I mean, our literal first house was just hay bales. That got demolished down to, like, quartered logs, which look kind of like log cabin-y. We had a couple different colors. Like, I built the storehouse that turned into my eventual home out of birch. The originals were maple, I think. Was, like, your place in the other one? Or was it pine?
It was probably pine.
Loth started with his, like, kitchen/cellar with, like, he built his walls out of gravel. And put red shingles on the roof, and eventually changed it to like slate stone. Got a little more artistic.
Mm-hmm.
Axe had a cobblestone forge, which probably was a good idea. We did have some fire issues, and I've had some fire issues in single player.
Yep.
But he originally started it kind of building it out of whatever cobblestone was to hand, so it was not very unified. I think he got that mostly under control.
Nah, it was still like 3 different colors.
Yeah, he tried to transition it to an accent color in a couple of places, but it was a little weird. If you're going for half and half, you probably should have stuck to like a simple checkerboard. That could probably be pretty easy to do, just alternating cobblestone of like black and white.
That'd be pretty rad.
I could probably,
especially if you like made it like polished, which makes it more smooth.
It shiny, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, like you said, we probably need to work on our aesthetics. Also, our road laws. Non-existent.
Well, I shouldn't say we need to work on our aesthetic, but we need to work on our road logs and where we're gonna set things.
Yeah, our village was like weirdly multi-level in a couple of places, and like some house foundations were like dug down, and some were not. I think you were lamenting this before we ended it last time of just like, why did we build like half down here and then half up there?
Yeah, no, that was my bad. I thought it'd be okay. I didn't think we were going to expand that much. I was wrong.
We needed a lot of space.
Yeah.
We didn't pre-plan where we were going to pen our animals at all.
No. Well, we had plans, but like it became quickly sense that like we needed to just get started working on the animals, or we're never going to get started working on the animals.
Yeah.
I will forever live in fear of Bill, though. Bill was scary.
Bill was supremely powerful. Yeah. I think like our zone where we ended up with the pit kilns was also just kind of like, we just decided, like, the guys just starting to dig there, but it became a more permanent structure because we realized, wait, shit, we can't pit kiln our stuff in the rain.
Robin, you say that, but Bill was a bighorn ram, so yes. Bill was a bighorn ram that I basically had to slap on the ass and run for my dear life so he didn't kill me. Who would just stand on blocks like he could escape but would not. He just wanted to know that he could escape whenever he wanted. Like, it was
way more hardcore than our chickens. Those guys were pansies.
Yeah, no. Bill had aura. And he was just a bighorn ram. He only deigned our presence because we gave him free food. You guys don't understand.
Yeah, I feel like we finally got our farm fields locked in, but because we were on like 9-day seasons, it became fall and winter before we actually got to use them, you know? Shit like that.
Yeah.
So like
that's why
we need to figure out like, okay, so, you know, streets need to be probably like minimum 3 blocks wide kind of a thing, you know, that sort of stuff.
And all streets are like three, like no, I think like we will actually like codify our building laws. Honestly, I think I think what I want to do is we pick like a center point, and then, you know, everyone can like go out like 100 squares and say, all right, this is your building area, work with it. So we can build, so we can all build kind of how we want, where we want, without necessarily running into each other. And then we can like kind of make a village square.
And hopefully leave ourselves some room for expansion, because as we've talked, like, production scale and realizing what you need to like store and utilize and make do with is like, it ramps.
It really does ramp, yes.
Lucky bolted a windmill to the front of his house, which was already a pretty sizable house because he was like getting, you know, barrels of liquid for fermenting alcohol and tanning hides. And you had your bee house next door.
Yeah, I had my apiary next door, the berry fields to behind. Like, technically, I'm going to count the longhouse as part of my building because I was the one who built it and updated it and stuff.
Yeah, you revamped the longhouse into a proper bunkhouse. And we moved all of our storage out of just jugs in the ground out of there.
Yeah. So it's like, no, we gotta find a, like, we're gonna, like, today, like I said, we're gonna set our settings, but we get in, we're gonna, like, try and get everyone in and try to do all this, find the scouting so we can find resources that we need quickly, and then find a good location where everyone can be, we can find, like, a giant lake, and we all pick, like, one side of the lake. I think that'd be probably pretty fucking rad.
Good. I want to say, actually, I think one of the mods we've got in the pack makes this easier because I think it's primitive survival adds stakes, which you use for other things, but also means we can just put stakes in the ground to mark some stuff out, because I think it's just knife, stick, makes stake. So we can carve stakes to, like, wooden stakes to, like, mark our positions, I think, pretty easy, assuming they actually go into the ground like that, which I bet they do, because you need stakes to make an earthworm grunter. Well, we'll figure it all out. I don't actually know if Loth's going to be necessarily doing primary cooking production or not. We'll see.
No, like, I think this is one of those things I was talking about before. Like, even though there were some of us that, like, specialize in some things, we don't necessarily have to stay in those lanes all the time. Like, I don't know. And like I said, it's one of those things. If we have to go travel across the lake to go get some fucking ingots for a project, you know, that's gonna be a thing. Oh, I really want to find us have a fucking huge ass lake, and then all of us just have docks, so we can just paddle across the lake.
It's good. I never did get to. I always in my mind wanted to like revamp the dock, but it never was really needed. But the dock was an important landmark because that was like how we fucking found our way home in the dark. I think I stuck an oil lamp to like a lamp post out there.
But yeah, no, like I've already said, like, in our next server, I'm gonna be a farmer, which means, I'll be handling crops, but I don't have to be having the only fields. Everyone else can set up their own, like, big-ass fields or garden if they want. But that's, what I'm gonna build. I'm gonna build fucking Lon Ranch and, think about opponent and shit.
And, we can do, like, urban planning and development to make moving easier. Like, something we never quite finished was, you can build stone path blocks, which actually, like, give you increased run speed, and they're pretty easy to make. Like, so we can actually, like, pave our roads, and, like, set up the transition between places. Yeah,
no, like, there's a lot of things to do, and I think we're gonna, like, we'll talk it all out, like, either tonight or part of it tomorrow about what we're gonna do. It's just, we have to actually sit down and plan. There's only 5 of us. I was considering maybe making it a more public thing, but I wasn't sure.
We talked about it, but I think you even may have mentioned in our public games channel, and obviously we did stream it, which there were a few people who checked in. I don't think anybody really expressed a desire to jump in on the server.
I'll put out a feeler in our games channel and ask if anyone would be interested in joining in our vintage store. Well, I'll ask everyone later if they'd be okay with adding more people to the server, because, like I said, Aaron was the one who so graciously gifted most of us a game. Axe bought it himself, but he's also, like, paying for, like, the server hosting right now too.
Yeah.
So, and in many ways, I feel like it's his choice on how we want to do things. So I don't want to necessarily commit to something.
And I would say I don't mind, just so long as we keep Aaron, and I don't know if we need. I don't know how multiplayer moderating goes, but, like, keep the ability to fucking moderate people if they're fucking around. Don't pour lava on my house. I'll have to kill you in Minecraft.
In Vintage Story.
Lucky
has stabbed many a player, mostly Loth, with Axe a couple times. I threw a bee grenade at Axe once.
After I gave you those bee grenades.
Yeah. What else was I gonna do with them?
I mean, that's what they were there for. I was like, I feel like it's old. I appear before Lucky, having returned from the chunks of distant, space, and I'm like, hello, I found these. I think it's only right that you have them. I open the suitcase and just hand him 6 bee-nades.
Bee-nades.
Filled bee-nades. And yes, Chad, the game is still, like I said, it's still a little silly sometimes. We've got a little scrap. And also, I think just the way the game works, we've all shot each other with a ranged weapon at some point.
It's very true.
Just because friendly fire is on and crowd control is hard.
It is.
I think Aaron did get firearms installed. I know we started with crossbows, but I don't remember if we did also.
No, we got firearms. We got
firearms.
Yeah,
we did get firearms in this. Yeah, so that's going to make it even worse when we're going to form the fucking musket line. Honestly, probably Axe asking, has he hurt anybody out when we've been swinging at huge hordes? We've probably also hit each other with, like, swords and spears. It's really hard to notice, though, when you're fist fighting or sword fighting, like, the 4 guys camping Lucky's stoop.
They really liked my stoop. They wanted my drugs!
I mean, I've said this before. I would not be surprised if they are not attracted to, like, barrels of fermenting stuff. I don't know what goes through drifters' heads, man. But it's a fun game. We're going to lock in.
Yeah.
But all right.
Then see, on top of that, so we are back in the Monster Hunter beta is back. It's in open beta. Got 2 lovely slots. I was able to get in a little bit of time yesterday. I was like, yeah. Comes out at the end of the month. I know Loth was talking about getting in there a little bit. Have you were able to put any time into it, Omega?
No. For some reason, I think Loth didn't get a little in. I need to double check if it's still down. But earlier this afternoon, PSN is down. So they said they're doing maintenance. So can't get into the Monster Hunter open beta.
Oh no!
At least not on PlayStation.
Nah,
it's still trending on Twitter. So I think it might still be.
I'm pretty sure the PC beta is going fine, and the Xbox one.
Well, the network is going fine. I know that some people have been a little bamboozled by some of the benchmarks.
They were like they brought the benchmark down. So
yeah,
yes,
I think some people have found with some lower settings to make some stuff work, do some interesting things. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun time. And in general, it sounded like in the previews leading up to this beta that they talked about having listened to a lot of. Yep, PSN's still down.
Oh no!
But they mentioned that they listened to a lot of feedback from the first the limited beta, their first open beta weekend, and have taken it into account because this is the crossplay beta, I think, first.
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, will be fun.
Like I said, I'll probably try and get some time on that. Maybe more tomorrow before we get into Vintage Story. I got a lot of games to play still.
Yep.
I still haven't beat Earth Defense Force 5. I still got Neo Fantasia to beat. I got SMT 5 to beat. Got a lot of games on my docket, and only more coming out. I found out that Citizen Sleeper 2 came out. I'm like, no! I loved the first one, and I was really excited about the second one, but then it kind of just dropped on me, and I'm all like, oh no, my time.
I still need to play the first one. I do own it.
I highly recommend it.
Yes,
it is
I
a
know
very
you
good
recommended it
game and
once.
deals with a lot about, identity and doing what you want.
Yeah, I had it on watch and picked it up on Steam on sale. And then also, they, to celebrate 2's release, they made a free game on PS Plus Extra as well, like last month.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
All right.
So, hey, if you have, I believe that's still valid because that's still in the catalog until they take it away. If you have, I think, PS Plus Extra tier, you can get Citizen Sleeper on PS5 for free, no additional fee.
Wake up, Sleeper. Oh, it's so good. I feel like I'm just going to watch the original trailer for the first one again.
Yeah, games are good.
Games are good.
I feel like some people may be asking because, speaking of how we go in the hole, we've yelled a lot and played a shitload of Civ 6. They may be wondering, hey, are you guys playing Civ 7? The answer, no, not yet.
No, not yet. Aaron is playing Civ 7, and he is having a decent time of it, I would say. I've only gotten a bit of his thoughts in it, but seems to be having fun. He says it's basically as good, if not better, than other Civs at launch. So
yeah, I gotta ask him have you meant it this way because I kind of read his first set. Also, I guess I should say Civ 7's not technically out yet. It's the pre-order window. If you have a couple of the higher tiers, you can get advanced access. It's not out until the 11th. Right now, in the early access, its Steam reviews are mixed, but that I don't know. That does kind of sound like the kind of thing, right? Where you get into the fucking like a week early access period. Maybe we got a couple of day one patches to get out, kind of a thing. I think Aaron mentioned. But yeah, the way it sounded to me when he said that he thinks it's better than how Civ 6 was at launch was like not as good as like Civ 6 now that they've got those big expansion packs and a lot of those little updates. Not necessarily as good, but still in a better place. And I'm kind of interested. The way like he's talked about how the way they did like the big 3 ages is kind of like a soft reset. Not a hard reset, but a soft reset to re-expand the map and do stuff like. That does actually sound kind of good because, like, I brought up of, like, I always feel like I'm dealing with that shit where, like, you make a couple of, like, ancient era units and those guys sit as, like, warriors or spearmen for, like, 1,000 years until you're finally like, oh, hey, we got a lot of money. We can turn these guys into pikemen or lancers now, The way the game works is, like, if you hit at the end of an age, you hard shift to a new civilization. You keep your leader and your leader traits, but you shift to a new civilization, a successor. And you like all of your units get upgraded to like or switched over to the lowest tier of the new age. And it seems like this kind of interesting. And it does genuinely seem like you can straight up just if you want shorter Civ games, you can just play a game in one of the specific ages. Like if we wanted to fuck around with like all of the information age stuff or the atomic age stuff, whatever it's called, we could just start a game in the third age and go from there, Or you can start at ancient and go through all the shit. I haven't played already, but I'm already tooting this horn. It gives me a little bit of indication for Aaron to say that he's hoping that there's a big DLC where they add space age to the back end, and I'm like, yeah, I always want my Civ to do that. So yeah, sounds fun, but like I said, reviews are a little mixed. I think some of it is just like people got to get used to the new systems. Like the Civ is already not a realistic game, right?
Yeah.
So, like, the fact that they changed what was previously kind of the fundamental conceit of the game of, like, what if I was the Romans, but I had tanks? Or, what if Gandhi had nuclear weapons? Like, that's kind of how the game works, and now that's not exactly how it works because you switch civs. So, you can't... I would guess the order would be, like, you start as, like, the Roman Empire, and then you probably become, like, either the like Byzantines or maybe like Papal States, maybe the Venetian Republic. I don't actually know like what all the civs are. And then your modern era is probably like modern unified Italy, Like you can't just be like the Roman Empire but modern, which is part of the funny of Civ. I guess we got new funny because like you can be Ben Franklin but Egyptian, or whatever you want. But yeah, so we'll see. I think somebody said in our Patreon chat a little while ago, but like I do kind of agree that like I like Civ games, I like 4X games. I don't know that I'd pick a new Civilization game up like week 1, right?
Right.
You gotta feel, you gotta wait. You possibly have to hear and think. Sorry, that's my FF14 brain rot. I can't say any of the 3 words of hear, feel, or think to myself without immediately adding the other 2 words. Have you heard about the award-winning MMORPG, Final Fantasy XIV? Well, we could talk about that a little. We had a big live letter recently.
It's true.
Got our 7.2 details coming March, I believe.
Yes.
And sounds good. Obviously, more MSQ.
Yep.
New MSQ dungeon, the Underkeep. Gonna get a new trial, Recollection Zorenia. Unknown if it's an MSQ trial or an optional thing. It kind of looks MSQ, though.
Yeah,
it seems still very Alexandria themed. We're gonna get our next tier of Arcadion raids, our normal raids, the cruiserweight tier.
I think we fucking called it that Bomberman is just a heel on the arena. He actually might be a sweet fucking dude outside of it.
Yeah, they showed some screen caps of him just, being a guy out and about.
With cats, I'm just like, yes.
That's perfect.
It is perfect.
Actually, I'm looking at this screenshot. There's John Final Fantasy in the background, our 2 cat girl friends, and then there's a new cat boy and Bomberman hanging out with stray cats together. Maybe a new guy we gotta fight? I bet they show this Lalafell with like a spray paint can. I bet that Lalafell will be the most fucked up difficult boss of the tier.
Probably.
She's just gonna absolutely ruin our shit. But yeah, that will be a very, very fun time. We're not really into Unreals, but they're adding Unreal Suzaku.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. Hildebrand's going to continue, which is nice. Another one that's a big one for everybody in our server, in our group, on our FC. Corn Servant side quest follow-up.
It's very important.
More Corn Servant. We learned what our next Allied Society is going to be. It's going to be Mulja.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, kind of surprising, because I feel like the way they pitched it, like when they talked about Allied Societies and stuff, they made it kind of sound like Mulja wouldn't be going down that route. But I guess we are. And that's neato. I definitely feel like spending time with the Mamuljaw is definitely something that's like desired out of the main story of Dawn Trail. Is you're like, man, I want to hang out with these guys more, figure out what their deal is. What do we think? Crafting or gathering?
I'm probably gonna go gathering, honestly.
I would tend to agree. I feel like that was one of their plot points in the actual MSQ, was they're like, the reason why the Mamuljaw are the way they are is because they feel kind of starved for resources, so maybe helping them gather some new plants or rocks will make them feel better. But we do have a couple of big ones that are going to be launched. So they're going to add the new field ops, Shadowed Crescent. It's going to have its own experience system. Going to have its own little job features you can do called Phantom Jobs, which they say are going to kind of relate to classic Final Fantasy jobs that, as written, would not function as well in 14.
Yeah.
So on this list, they've got, in the Occult Crescent or Shadow Crescent, they got Time Mage, which they've already talked about is like a really weird one to do with normal MMO rules. Geomancer, which like Geomancy's been discussed in the game, and we've talked about this. I would like a Geomancer, but also I kind of get that like doing the normal Final Fantasy version of Geomancy with the way the MMO rotations work would be tough. They've got Chemist on here, which is interesting. I know that's one they were like playing around with and kind of cut. And then Ranger, Berserker, and Cannoneer. Those could be normal jobs, and I would even say that, like, depending on the exact version of the FF game, like, Ranger's already gotten some stuff from, like, Archer Bard, and Warrior already has some stuff out of Berserker.
Mm-hmm.
Cannoneers are actually usually a little different from, like, what Machinist does. Like, they do actually have some big cannon classes. I know there's kind of, like, a couple of the tactics games, like, your Cannoneers have to actually, like, use an ability to, like, load specific shells into their cannons, and then their normal attack gets, like, added effects.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, kind of stuff that, like, wouldn't work right out. But looks neat. We'll see what that is. They say it's going to have, like, an up to 48-man raid.
That's big.
Yeah, big stuff. Interesting. Sorry. I guess it makes sense. The bullet point that's translated, because I've got a list here, is... I'll copy it for Patreon chat so you can see what I'm looking at. I'll spoil it in case anybody doesn't want to see it. But it makes sense that this new field op is probably going to be tied to relic weapons. But they say can get items in or outside, so just like normal.
It's Baja.
Yep. But they're also going to add Cosmic Exploration finally.
Yeah.
focusing on crafting and gathering, and gonna have server-wide milestones that everybody can work towards as you kind of explore new places and do stuff.
Yeah, no, this is gonna be like the firmament. When was the firmament quest?
Late Heavensward, I think, was when the
No,
MSQ setup happened, or was it early Stormblood?
I think it was Stormblood. I think.
Yeah, it may actually.
I don't remember. I wasn't actually there for it. It was during like my big break.
I'm trying to remember because like there's a point in the MSQ where like they bring it up. Yeah, it was definitely like in the Heavensward patch cycle. Or 5.1. Yeah, so Stormblood. Actually, wait, no, 5.1 isn't that early Shadowbringers? Yeah, damn. I guess it does kind of make sense because the custom deliveries that are in the firmament are pretty. They're like a couple tiers into the cycle. Damn, that's much later than I thought, though. Wild. Well, I guess the gap of like bringing up the restoration of Garlemald as a concept and it not being out yet makes more sense.
Probably.
But yeah, Cosmic Exploration, sounds like it's going to be, like you said, similar to the firmament stuff. We're going to have server-wide goals and slowly upgrade things, but that seems like it's going to be pretty fun. This is actually how I learned that the PSN outage was going on, because I was going to log into 14, which I play on my PS5, and do some Beast Tribe quests to get back to leveling my crafting. Because I feel like I want to, just in case, have like, I've got Miner to 100 already, and Fisher, and I want to get Goldsmith to 100, hopefully before this hits. Just to be safe.
Yeah, no, when this hits, there's going to, actually, it depends on how they do things. Oh, actually, I'll be right back. 1 second.
Sure. I'll be right back. I'll resume the audio. Let me also make sure my microphone position is correct as I'm, stretching my legsies out.
Your legsies.
But yeah, we were talking about Cosmic Exploration, and I reviewed some of the screen caps. You can see the one in Patron chat. That there's a lot of real neato stuff involved. Hologram tanks for your base. Some fucking space uniform-ass glams, looks like. What I'm going to guess is a mount that's just a giant suit of mecha armor.
Looks like a mecha worker.
Yeah. It looks like one of our little Loprit friends is going to get a costume change. Probably naming way, because that's what the color is referencing. But, like, some cool shit. I think they said we're going to go to multiple places, but I'm going to guess the first phase looks like it's on the moon. God, we could do a fucking Star Trek bridge setup now. Okay, one destination per patch. Sounds cool. So we start Moon Man, and then we get to go other places. Neato. Burrito. We'll have to do some cool starship uniform posing, because we're a bunch of weirdos sometimes, guys.
Yeah.
On our last 14 stream, we snapped our next album cover. We all did the seasonal quest to get the bouquet emote and just decided to start posing.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty excited for some of this stuff, because obviously we're going to get story stuff and side story stuff, which looks sick. But also, I obviously wasn't there when they did, the start of, the firmament stuff. Now it's just kind of a thing you can do with crafters and gatherers. And you said you weren't there for the original launch of it too, so this is kind of new for everybody. Exciting. Should be, another PLL probably early next month to show some of it in motion, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be fun. I just kind of wonder what the style of our new relic weapons will be.
That is probably, I don't know. The more I think about it, I'm just like, I don't know.
I feel like probably it would be, like classic FF references because of what it seems like the styling of the Shade Triangle is, but also, I don't know. We'll have to see what fucking Geralt comes up with next.
Maybe, I would say the mana bills were kind of high-tech, but who knows? Maybe we'll get something, even more high-tech. I don't know.
Electrope has many uses, Ed boy. Sorry, that's another running gag in the FC crew. Shade Triangle seems 5 themed? Okay, we can get some 5 references. Also true. Some of the steps in the Manderville relics are like completely different.
No, it's true.
Like I think I did my spear first, and like the second step is just like, yeah, this is just, a pretty normal spear. And then, you go a couple of other steps and you're like, hello, I have a giant glowing hologram blade now.
It's rad.
No, they are pretty cool. I do love the look of the Manderville weapons. Also, everybody get ready for people to come out of the woodwork to complain about how annoying the relic grind is.
But then once they get done with the relic grind, we're like, man, I missed the relic grind.
I'm just thinking of just like the people being like, I don't like the relics are just tombstones. That means I gotta do all the same dungeons over and over again.
And then realizing that they have to do the same dungeons over and over again, regardless.
That's also true. But yeah, no, if it's like the memories from Bozra, it's gonna be that. It means you're gonna have to do either probably like Shadowbringers and Endwalkers tier dungeons, maybe earlier. Or you're gonna have to go into the field ops where you're gonna have to do big battles with circles full of statues or do a 48-man. And everybody's item level is going to be bare minimum. Nobody's going to know what the fuck they're doing. We're all going to have new phantom jobs that we don't know what any of the buttons do. It'll be great. Just waiting to see people and shout chat being like, I just want to finish my relic weapon, man. As we're all lying dead on the floor.
Yep.
So it'll be fun is what we're saying. Joke's on you, Robin. I know what all my Dragoon buttons do. But yeah. Anything else about 14, Lucky? I posted the summary list.
No, not really. Have been trying to get more into it, but
We've been vintaging so hard.
yeah, we have.
Oh, yes, that's true. Showed up on stream with a leyline shirt. Very funny. It's true. Hilda's hairstyle got added. Works for both Vieras and Hrothgallers. Then the last point that I got, just scribbling stuff down earlier. Don't know if Lucky has anything else he wants to hit up, but the last point I have is just a side note. I could transition very well from 14 there, because it looks like we're going to get some sort of metallic gear type suit. To, apparently, speaking of PSN being down, apparently PlayStation Network or PlayStation Store may have leaked the release date for Metal Gear Delta.
Clearly that's why there's down. They had to do fucking damage control and it went horribly wrong.
Possibly. There is also the rumor, which I think does work with possibly being the legit date. There is a rumor, and usually when these rumors start coming out, they're true, that there's going to be a State of Play next week. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was going to have a release date that was going to get announced, then got added early.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, according to the data, the release date for Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater is August 28th this year.
A respectable time frame.
Yeah. Maybe a little later than we first thought when they announced, but still a decent amount of lead time.
Should be in that decent time before big things should be the big summer blowout, but be before the big fall releases.
Yeah.
So
late summer, but not quite into the fall releases or obviously holiday releases. And obviously,
still no sign of GTA 6 though.
Well, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Right, was that obviously I can see why Konami would not have announced this ahead of time, even if they're locked in, because there are reporters and industry insiders are saying that some teams are holding their back half of 2025 release dates because they don't want to go up against GTA 6. Despite the fact that, again, people say GTA 6 is coming out this year. Unless Rockstar is going to give me a date, I'm going to say they're fucking lying. They're full of shit. They just said it would come out in 2025 because they had to say it would come out sometime because their whole ass game got leaked. And they were like, all right, okay, if you're going to leak our double pre-alpha footage, we have to do a trailer, I guess, and tell you. I'm not sure GTA 6 is real. Yeah, somebody in our Patreon chat say, I've seen no proof. It's true. It's truth. Also, like I said, I've mentioned it before, GTA 5 was such a big cultural phenomena, and obviously, there's a lot of hype surrounding GTA 6 because people are Rockstar's been in the tank so long and we're really anticipating it. I genuinely don't know, is it a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? That if you don't want to go against GTA 6, that GTA 6 is going to beat you? I feel if game developers, other studios, actually turned on their marketing engines and were yeah, we're coming out. What if GTA 6 comes out around us? Who cares? I don't know if you could actually shake the hype, but I feel you could try. The reason why GTA 6 is such an 800-pound gorilla is because people are treating it that way,
Yeah, but because they're treating it that way, it is an 800-pound gorilla.
It's true.
That's the problem. GTA 6 is being so overhyped that I'm pretty sure fuck tons of people are going to buy it day one without realizing they're just going to be playing the same exact game that they've been playing since fucking GTA 3 on the PS1. And they'll eat it up. And they'll say it's great, it'll go on to save millions of dollars, and people will be so obsessed with it that they will not play other games. Which is why other games don't want to release around it, because first and foremost, these people need to make money.
It's true. Game development is very expensive. And that's I guess why they're probably being cautious, right? It's just, even if GTA 6 is a nothing burger game, it's you don't want to take that chance and get pigeonholed like that. Also, Elder Scrolls 6 really is fictitious. Todd didn't have any reason to announce it, but they did. Why? I guess I don't know. They didn't want investors to be freaked out that they announced Starfield. But, like, I saw a headline, I think, early this week or late last week of, like, hey, it has now been more years since Skyrim launched to when they announced Elder Scrolls 6 than it has been since they announced Elder Scrolls 6. Like, Skyrim came out, was released a whole shitload, and they announced Elder Scrolls 6 in the entire time frame it has been since they announced Elder Scrolls 6 to now. It's crazy. What are you doing, Todd? Trying to get people to buy Starfield? I don't think so. Though at this rate, who the fuck knows? We might actually get a fucking Starfield announcement for PlayStation. That seems to be another consistent, like, ever since Xbox had their little developer conference, there have been a lot of rumors about, like, what Xbox games are coming to PlayStation and Switch 2. Oh, sorry, Robin in our Patreon chat said it probably the most vicious. They have announced more Skyrim re-releases since Elder Scrolls 6 reveal than they have announced things about Elder Scrolls 6.
Oh, that's painful.
It's true. Robin, I think you just killed Todd Howard in Minecraft. Somewhere his ears are burning right now, and he doesn't know why. Damn. And talking about, like game releases, obviously I think a lot of people, because of, like, Skyrim size, people will be turbo excited when Elder Scrolls 6 is real, but also Bethesda jank. Like,
Bethesda jank.
That actually will, like, I'll say this about GTA 6. GTA 6 probably, I bet, will not be that original compared to any of the previous GTAs. Like you said, it's probably going to be the same gameplay loop they've been doing since the PS2. But I can guarantee you the way Rockstar works, it will be polished as hell because they're freaks like that. Like, they're going to have entire blocks of Miami that are going to be photo scanned into the machine, and it's going to make your file size ginormous. But it will be very polished. Elder Scrolls 6 will be buggy as hell. It'll be weird, it'll be wacky, and that's what you're going to want.
Well, the first one is a Kotaku article, but it gets the point across.
Yeah, the news coverage on this kind of talks about, like, it got infamous because of this story, but I think people were already saying it, as a dodge, like Robin said. It's because, like, you can't go on Twitch or YouTube and say, I'm gonna kill someone, or I'm gonna kill myself. Those get flagged. But, if you couch it as contextually, you say, in Minecraft. As seen from the luckiest list linked in a rest report, threats are still threats if you mean them. I think the way it works, like, generally, and why it stayed popular, because it quote-unquote works, is nominally, if you say in Minecraft, that does let people know you're joking. If you say, I'm going to kill myself in Minecraft, that is not a serious plea for help. You are not contemplating self-harm. Or if you are, it's one of those, normal in-passing moments, I'm going to die of cringe. But unfortunately, the nature of the algorithmic money machine means that, like, people have sometimes had to do a lot of weird, stupid shit with their language, like saying, I'm gonna unalive myself, which is awful, and also doesn't. That's just you're doing horrible shit to the English language. That doesn't actually change the meaning. You're just finding a different way to say it. That's robots won't catch because they're dumb. Because robots are dumb robots. But yeah, Lucky. Anything else in the What's Up Zone you want to talk about?
Well, I've been trying to get through a new book. I picked up First and Only, the first book in the Gaunt's Ghost series. Why this is significant is because it's a book set in the 40K universe. As you know, Lucky is not super familiar with the 40K universe, but I have several people among my social groups, online groups, and in the meat space who are. So I thought I'd take it upon myself to, educate myself. And I asked some of them, hey, what are some good ones? And First and Only was recommended to me. They describe it as, they didn't describe it to me. When I did some research, this came up. But it is described as sharp, but in 40K. So basically, a British military unit going around doing stuff. And I've only gone through, like I said, I have the audiobook, so I've only gone through, like, the first 2 hours of it. But I like it. It's very much less the 40K thing of fucking space marines and every ungodly thing known to the Imperium of Man trying to kill them, and more about guardsmen just trying to make do with what they got and dying horribly for it, but often in cool ways. So it's It's pretty good. Honestly, I don't think I should really explain what it is, because I feel like other people already have an idea what this, because it seems like everyone I talk to is way more into Warhammer than I am.
And,
but
like you said, being recommended it. Surprisingly, Gaunt's Ghost, very popular series to recommend to people.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes, no,
It's good.
It's a little older, but it's one of the novel series that I think a lot of people recommend. Honestly, for the reasons that I think you're enjoying it, in that it is a much more digestible and, saying the phrase down to earth feels slightly ironic, but down to earth version. Like you said, the characters are just normal Imperial Guardsmen. Okay, they have a cool backstory. They're the Tanith first and only regiment, and you're like, why are they the only ones? Well, it's because Tanith is gone, man. We can't go home again, man.
That's why they're ghosts.
Yeah, and all that, weird shit. Gaunt himself is an oddball because he's both the regiment's colonel and also its commissar, which is just not normally done. So, like,
yeah,
they're unique and special snowflakes, but in, like, a very different way than you'd expect.
Like that
guys.
Gaunt is like, it's like, no, we are not just going to throw more guardsmen at the fucking problem until it's solved. Yeah.
And honestly, like I said, I mean, I feel like, I bet he makes this argument somewhere in the series. Gaunt at least has a reasonable reason to say that, which is like, hey, unlike most other regiments of guardsmen, I cannot replenish my numbers. The place where these guys came from, we're out of them. We're all out.
Well, no, like, it was also based upon the philosophy of his senior, his mentor. The right man in the right place. More can be won with costless action than can ever be gained by just throwing bodies at the problem. And that's I like that, because unfortunately, I do feel like this is as someone who just, kind of gets like 40k lore kind of through a drip, as, I just absorb things as other people are talking about it. It seems like the 40k universe has a fucking human resources problem, and the fact that there isn't one, and everyone is just kind of ultimately expendable and doomed to dying, usually in some like horrible way. If you are not important in some way, you are probably going to die.
And I definitely feel like you've got a correct read that I think part of the humor, especially of earlier versions, and now, unfortunately, part of the in the grim darkness of the future, there is only war-ness of it, it is supposed to be that way, that, like, we live in a meat grinder universe because it's designed to sell plastic spacemen. I feel like I have to caveat everything I say about 40k to constantly remind people that there's no reason they write any of this other than to sell plastic spacemen. Well, it's not entirely true. I think some authors are doing it just to have fun. But like,
I think Gaunt Ghost is written for an actual love of it. Like,
yeah,
he's upselling the fucking guardsmen,
Mm-hmm.
Which
but
I do believe is you can play, but I think they are, true to form, kind of squishy.
Yes, Imperial Guardsmen are, I actually said, a horde army. Like, you're supposed to put, dozens or, possibly even, like, if you get to, like, very large point sizes and at certain editions, like, possibly, triple digits of these models on the board. Like, wow. You can get very big Guardsmen Regiment armies, all of which are, like, supposed to be very customizable. Because, like, and like you said, it is upselling the Guard. That is kind of supposed to be, like, what the advantages of Guards is you get to write your own regimental backstory, like the Ghosts. So, like, you can play famous regiments and possibly get special rules, or you can design any kind of regiment history you like. But yeah, like the like I said, the early humor is in kind of you're in this uncaring meat grinder universe. So, like, there are references to, like, corpse starch rations. We make our lowest level rationing out of extracting the vital essences from human corpses, kind of shit, Soylent Green type stuff. What's that? One regiment, has been wiped out. Send 2 more regiments. Send 100,000 men at the problem.
Yeah, right. No, like, I'm definitely seeing that in First and Only. Like, Gaunt is down there, sleeping with, like, down near with his men. They all have shitty fucking coffee. Then we pivot scene to what was it, Lord General? Yeah, Lord General, who's up in the palace, who just says, we're gonna throw more men at them. Bring me another caffeine. This one's going stale, as they've never actually touched the caffeine in the fucking in the carafe in the first place. So it's just like, no, I think it is kind of like Gaunt's Ghost is kind of like, First and Only is supposed to highlight, Gaunt's not like the rest of them, and in a good way. And I think that is one of the reasons why I'm selling, because I don't feel like I'm trying to read a power fantasy, although we still have, las guns, melters, fucking Gone has a chainsword, all that stuff. Giant rock.
What you learn is that despite all these funny toys, the guardsmen are usually woefully unequipped for, like, 1-to-1 body strength compared to the universe. Like, at the very least, they are armed as well as traitorous guardsmen and cultists.
Yeah, no, but I feel like I'm reading, like, Axe put it like this way, like a World War II story. Like, literally, I can't remember the planet.
Starts in the trenches. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're literally in the trenches right now. They got trapped because, what was it? It started with an S. But basically, corruption got one of the Adeptus' planets and turned things into Gribblies. I can't remember. Again, they're saying proper nouns at me. I can't remember. I'm sorry.
This is the unfortunate nature of 40K, yes.
Yes. But, the Lord General basically told Sharp to advance. We're not going to stay here any fucking longer. It wasn't Slaanesh.
It's the name of the planet or the name of the faction. They're the something-y, like, guard or group.
I can't remember.
Ebook. I could pull it up if I wanted to, but I won't.
But, they are told to advance no matter what, and they do. And then the enemy starts bombarding behind them, but starts bringing them bombarded backwards. So they're trapped between the enemy front line and their bombardment. So Gaunt's only choice is to keep pressing forward with, a limited amount of men and supplies. He is also with it started with a fucking V.
The unfortunate problem is that there are several Imperial Guard regiment types that start with V. Yes, it is the Vitrians, because they're kind of like Indian themed.
Yeah, the Vitrian Dragoons with their glass armor.
Yeah, I think
Vitrian
right.
Dragoons. Yeah, so it's just them, and but it was like it's still like they're only in that one book.
That's another thing about Guardsmen, right? Is they have a lot of like one-off stuff. You can just add whatever you like.
But it still has the scary the scary Warhammer stuff. Like they're going around destroying blasphemous idols, and a dude gets a shard of one in his neck, and they're like, oh, it's just fine. He's had worse. Later, he turns into, a chaos monstrosity and has to take a fucking rocket launcher to the face. But not before he, kills several of his former teammates. I'm just like, oh. So, like, I think it is down to earth enough that I do not feel like I am being overwhelmed by 40K, but has enough 40K in it that I can get the fucking vibes, which I think is important.
Yeah.
So, yes, no, I can understand why a lot of people recommend it as well, because I do think it is it is selling 40K to me in probably the best way that it can. It still has too many proper nouns, though.
Yeah. The other common, of this tier sort of novel that's recommended is the Caiaphas Cain series. I think it approaches kind of the problem from the same angle, but from the same level, but from a different angle. Caiaphas Cain is another commissar. He's not also the colonel of his regiment, but he's his regimented commissar. They're kind of told from his point of view. The kind of conceit of the novels that they're from his double secret memoirs, only to be published, years after he died, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all like his internal monologue. So like on paper, Caiaphas Cain is regarded as a hero of the Imperium. He's responsible for all these brave, wonderful things. He's charged into battle and warned his allies about incoming enemy attacks and stuff, survived against impossible odds. In his internal monologue, Caiaphas Cain says to himself he is a coward. Whether he's actually a coward or just, not equipped with suicidal martyrdom is up for debate. But he always pitches it as, oh, he's a horrible coward. So why doesn't he execute his own men for failing to uphold the Imperial Code? Well, it's because commissars who constantly kill their own guys are involved in accidents, that sort of thing. Why doesn't he advise his regiment to gloriously charge and die against the Orc menace? Well, it's because as he's the highest ranking officer, he would be expected to join in that glorious charge, So he, like Gaunt, is a more practical commissar, but it's always framed through the lens of, because he's a diehard Imperial loyalist, but also he has a survival instinct, so, he does not jump out and do the dumbest thing you could imagine. So it's almost like it's more self-aware and can be high level. But I do kind of feel like it's the novels aren't as grounded. I'm trying to think. I think the very first, the actual first written book maybe against orcs, but it could also have been the Gene Stealer one. I don't remember. The timeline. Okay, it is the Tao with Gene Stealers, the first one. Yeah. So that book turns into aliens halfway through.
Ugh.
But like it's another one of the case where like usually because you're reading it from his perspective, you completely understand what's going on with Kane and why he is the way he is. But also it lets you kind of like look at the 40K universe for a certain light. I'll have to remember exactly which one. Because it's a popular series where they've like done some time jumps and prequels, I have to remember exactly which book is the first one. I think it's Caves of Ice, but I'm not sure. And that's another one that's very popular with the fan base because, like you said, Caiaphas Cain is a character who you can understand very well. Space Marines are cool, but they're, space crusaders, so sometimes it is hard to wrap your head around them. Like, people like the role-playing aspect and like kind of the vibes. Like, so many people, I think, got into Space Marine 2 because Space Marine 2 doesn't bother to explain anything, so you're just kind of immersed in the world, and eventually the only way you can go is just like, courage and honor, brother, for the Emperor. Like, you have to just start repeating the phrases, otherwise you're gonna go crazy. Like, you just have to accept that you're, like, you either have to put the game down or just be like, no, fuck it, courage and honor, we're in it.
For the Emperor.
And like I said, I think that Space Marine 2 is a good onboarding game because it is so immersive, but also it survives by not explaining anything. Like, they don't try to explain anything because they know that would be a bridge too far for a lot of gamers, so they just kind of vibe it. It is a solid game, but I said myself I would go back and play like more multiplayer or maybe play at a higher difficulty, and I have not done that yet. So like that's kind of where it is, But yeah, it's funny that you mentioned you're reading first and only. It's been a while since I've been reading, but I do have the ebook like half read on my ebook reader right now. I should go back and finish it.
I got the audiobook, and I do think they have a good person. The person sounds wonderfully British, which I think it really sells the atmosphere.
Yeah, having watched a couple of the Sharp TV movies, no, that comparison's very accurate. Like, the character of Sharp, as played by Sean Bean, is like, I mean, he's a little more rough and tumble than Gaunt is, because he's just like a normal enlisted man who saves the Duke of Wellington and gets promoted to officer. But like, he's just a guy, And because he's not part of the British aristocracy, like the normal career officers in Napoleonic Britain are just like, yes, tally-ho, lads, let's send a couple hundred men, charge the line, form up, kill them. And Sharp will be like, well, no, sir, I don't think that's quite right. If we charge them, they're gonna shoot at us. What we should do is sneak around and use my riflemen to shoot at them from a distance. My Sean Bean impression's not very great, but I'm trying. So like that's how it is. And shit like Sharp will not, like, the normal way of disciplining your men during the Napoleonic period is, flogging with a cane, and like Sharp's not gonna do that shit. He's been flogged. Of course he's not gonna do it. Sharp also has the classic, like, army of tramps and thieves type shit. Like, all the special riflemen he gets in the first story are like, criminals. Their choices were go to prison or go to Spain to fight Old Boney. And it says a lot about the British prison system at the time that most people say, I would like to fight Old Boney. So yeah, like I said, people are very correct at that assumption. The Tanith first and only who are left are just, quite a collection of characters. And I do believe it's mentioned in a couple of sources that is actually one of the common ways to get pulled for your Imperial Guard regiment is either they are fully made up of like penal legions, or just, all right, buddy, you've got your choice. You can either join the new regiment we're making and redeem yourself in the eyes of the Emperor, or I can send you to 40K space prison. Where presumably you're going to be like told to mine some sort of toxic heavy metal without a mask, or I don't know, cut down logs in a hell jungle.
You're not gonna have a good time, okay?
No, you're not gonna. I don't think there's been I don't think 40K has white collar prisons. I think
God,
it's a
like
bad
if I understand this right, even just their normal ass planets are kind of hellhole. Like the planet that they are is just awash with like toxic fumes and fucking deadly
yeah, it is a Forge world, so it is like a production world. But yes, that's like 40K is one of those universes where the scale is so large that like it's kind of like Star Wars, where like planets are usually just like one type of thing. If you get lucky, maybe you're on an agri world where like 9/10 of your ground cover is just farming all the grain and fruit to keep feeding all these assholes. But if you've got like a hive world, that's, like a citywide, planet-wide city like Coruscant, except 40k, so like everything's 10,000 times as stinky. Forge worlds, sure, they make, hover tanks and flamethrowers here, but you don't want to know what toxic chemicals go into the paint, man. Also, they're run by the Adeptus Mechanicus, who literally replace parts of their body, including some of their brains, with machines, so not always the greatest bosses. Then there are some planets in the Imperium that are settled, which are just straight up called death worlds, where they're like, yeah, this place sucks. It's awful. There's one that I really like, Catachan. It's where the Catachan jungle fighters are. They are a Imperial Guard regiment who are nothing but John Rambo. And their planet is just 100% predator jungle. So they're, the scariest motherfuckers around, but also their planet sucks ass. You do not want to visit Catachan.
Yeah, so that was something I guess I wanted to bring up, and I guess it was a pretty good topic. You got into it.
Like you said, there's a lot of splash damage on 40k.
Yeah. Other than that, I don't think there's anything. I have not watched anything. I'm gonna be real. No, I take that back. I've been watching my my weekly allotment of 100 Gun Girlfriends who really, 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 really love you, because that is important. But other than that, I have not been watching anything, so there's nothing there. I guess I've been trying to get through First and Only, so that's it for me reading. And gaming wise, it's been almost vintage story the entire way down. I don't think I've really put any time into anything else. I just did that little bit of 14 that we had on Wednesday. That's it.
Yeah, I haven't caught up on any of my watching. I mentioned, I think a couple weeks ago that actually probably more weeks, I watched the first episode of Sakamoto Days. I haven't kept up yet. Haven't watched the other regular Netflix shit. So yeah. And probably won't do any of that tonight because somehow, through all of the power of our tangenting and what's up, the mission clock is almost 4 hours again. We're at 3:51.
Let's go. Good job, us.
So yeah, not a little shorter, but not necessarily a super shorter episode. But if you are out of things, I'm out of things, we can wrap this up now. Oh, I could go refresh my water bottle and stretch. Sorry, I just, to stifle my yawn, I just, stuffed a couple knuckles of my fist into my mouth. Blah. It's one of those things where I acknowledge how long you've been here and it starts to creep up on me. If you don't think about it, it's not real. All right, well, if there's no objections, I will begin the outro process.
Begin the outro process?
First up, a little self-promo for future. Since this upcoming week is Valentine's, and in fact, the next show will be recorded on Valentine's Day, on the 14th.
Nice.
I've got a little plan for our Fail Portrayal slot earlier in that week. Lucky has agreed to join me for a special Yu-Gi-Oh! Waifu episode, which, because it's better for SEO, I will probably try to do a tier list format, but depending on how complicated that is, it might just turn into Smash or Pass. We'll see. I didn't want to get people confused with Mailbag, so I'll probably launch a YouTube post the day this episode goes up on YouTube, when it launches for public, to take people's suggestions. Obviously, I'll have my own ideas. And if you get too clever with me, I will ignore your suggestions. We try to get too cute, but hopefully we'll have a fun time. I've had a suggestion poll running or open on Patreon, but nobody has suggested anything, so you can also do it that way. I think people were just kind of chilling until I confirmed, the scheduling, but we're vibing, so feel free to fire off either of those there. I'll take them in, and we'll run that. Like I said, no new rain this week, so if you catch up with the episode I just launched, well, it's after midnight for me, so I can say yesterday, no matter what reference of recording I am. Yesterday, 33, we're caught up. So yeah, stay tuned for all that. And you can enjoy this show by smashing that like button, bringing out my fucking 2016 language. Don't forget to subscribe, ring the bell, punch that like button, slam the subscribe button.
Okay, we're going too far. I am being taken back in time. I do not want to go there.
No, I won't reverse time. Also, I've got to be honest. I feel like I've been following watching too many clips of some very spicy-minded streamers. The direction I went for what you could do with future interactions was like, wait, no, don't say that. That might be a little too hardcore. We'll get our very funny, jokes in at other times. No, we're not going to ever ask you to rate 5 stars. We're actually not on iTunes. I've talked to people about that, and people seem kind of like, nah, don't bother. But yes, make sure you are liking the videos, you are commenting, you are subscribing, you are ringing the bell. Consider joining our Discord. It is free for everybody. We do not have a Patreon-only Discord, just Patreon-only sections of the Discord. You can also support us by joining our channel membership. And like I said, you can support us on Patreon, get the audio of this episode early, get access to regular topic polls for both Fail Portrayal and Fanservice Friday. Both are up now in a timely manner. We're cooking. And early releases of videos like Wanted at higher levels. And of course, at our highest tiers, you can listen to the show get recorded live. Sorry if my speaking is a little off. It's been 4 hours. You can get the shows live and also get an honor shout out like Adam Tarp, Blacklist OG, Call Me Zed, Carlos, Dragon, JDV9000, Starlight, Legendary Boss Hunter, Rise of Kenji, Rogue Robin, Sharvor, Some Guy Named Bob, and Varian the Crow. Thank you very much for your support, patrons. Thank you very much for your support, normal watchers and comment leavers. We will see you guys next week for more Let's Talk FGO. Get out your last-minute Valentine's Day predictions in those comments. It's your last chance. Fancy pants. And, keep your eyes peeled for streams. That is going to be it from me. Good night, everybody.
Good night.